in Austin. A really good friend of mine who's a great musician gave it to me, and I haven't even tried to pick it up in like 2 years. And I have nothing but time for the past 3 months.
Yeah, my friend is left-handed as well. She plays viola, which is very similar.
So they make a left-handed viola?
No, they don't.
They do not.
Assholes.
So in her mind,
it's the same thing.
What she was telling me, and I think this relates really, if you think about it, all the work that you're doing is in your fingers in your left hand. Like that's where the work is. So it's really a left-handed instrument.
I agree. Lies.
So when you drive,
you actually sound like a hater right now.
So when you drive, do you put your left hand on the steering wheel or your right hand on the steering wheel?
I drive with my knee.
There's no left-handed cars out here.
Left.
You have
I
stick
drive
shift.
left.
It's right-handed on the left.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know, your car is weird because the key is on the left. I always think that's weird.
Another thing that's
your key's on the left hand side.
Yeah, but
now, I drove a Saab for years, and the Saab, the key ignition was in the console in the center.
Right, the center. Yeah.
But like it's still on your right hand. And
right.
Like it was the turning with my left hand that was like. I was
so you drove the Porsche?
He taught me how to drive.
I mean the
stick.
Lamborghini.
Yeah, he taught me how to drive stick over the quarantine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you good at it now?
Not bad.
Okay.
I always let my teachers review.
You only have to do first gear. If you make the car move, you're great.
Now,
it's very simple.
See, my only reason for learning it is I don't need to be an expert. I just need to be able to get into any car and drive away.
I purchased I purchased a Mazda XTX. I can't remember what it was. It was a Mazda car. It was a sports car, and I went to the car dealership, purchased the car, and did not know how to drive a standard.
You're telling us this, yeah.
Yeah, and I sat in the car for forever trying to figure out how to get it out of gear. And the salesman, the lady turned the lights off at the dealership, and he comes out. He was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to work out this radio because I didn't know how to get it into first gear." But I jerked all the way home.
I've done that before.
I learned hydraulic car that didn't have switches. They took off the springs, so it's like
And then my neighbor Denise Woods, shout out to Denise Woods, who said, "Let's go driving. We're gonna go in my car. I'm gonna teach you how to drive this car." And I was like, "Okay." So we go in her car, and then 2 weeks later, she sends me an invoice saying I burnt out her clutch. $1,300. I was like, "Man, you volunteered." Yeah.
I've always it always surprises me. So the only place that I've seen stick shift very common was in this one small town in Mexico, and it was all hills. Like hillier than San Francisco. And I was
I've always hated.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What have you? I was like, how are you this good that you're like able to just drive your car up and you like?
I couldn't stop at a red light though, because I'd be scared to come off the clutch and the brake on a hill on the incline.
There's tricks. You gotta learn how to use your emergency brake. Put the emergency brake on, the car won't move. So when you take your foot off the brake, you don't roll backwards.
See,
once the car starts to go forward, you drop the emergency brake and off you go. So it looks like it's like a smooth transition.
Yeah.
Like in the Caribbean or the Bahamas, ever ridden in one of those, like with those drivers? Oh. That shit's scary.
What? You mean Mexico City taxi drivers? Or
well,
also are
probably
scary?
very much the same thing.
Yeah.
Very much the same thing.
Anywhere south of the Gulf.
I've watched the mirrors be taken off side by. I was in the passenger side and watched the mirror just go, and the driver was like, "That was close."
When the small town, it's called Tasco, and it's like known for its silver and stuff, and it's all hills, and they use the little like Volkswagen Beetle because of the engine, where the engine is. Yeah. They were like, if the engine were in the front, we couldn't get up the hill. Yeah. Yeah.
So Bill.
Yes.
You drive a Porsche.
Yes.
Would you say the Porsche is better than the Tesla and the Mercedes?
Hell yes.
Okay. Better than a Tesla?
Yes.
How?
Just handling.
But it's gas.
It's preference.
Still, it's handling. I drive all about the handling.
I can dig it.
I've driven back and forth across the country. I like to drive. That's where most of my comedy comes, when I go out for a drive.
So let's rewind a little bit. Right. You are a comedian.
Yes.
You're a retired police officer. You drive a nice Porsche. You have a girlfriend.
Yep.
For our listeners.
Yep.
You have a girlfriend. Do you ever let her drive the car?
She doesn't want to. I want to teach her. She doesn't want to learn how to drive the stick shift.
I love to learn. I need to refresh.
Is she black?
Right? No.
Okay.
No, she still doesn't want to drive.
No, is she an American?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that sounds like an Asian woman. Like, I don't want to drive. No.
No.
Was that racist?
She has a 17-year-old daughter.
It wasn't until you did the accent.
Oh, she doesn't want to drive it either?
Her daughter, I taught her daughter how to drive. Her daughter just turned 17, just graduated high school.
Nice.
Gets to have a graduation
Do you get Father's Day
in
gifts?
about a week and a half. Yeah, I do actually. Been together a long time.
I'm gonna send your Father's Day gift this
Father's
year.
Day is this Sunday, right?
Since we're friends on Facebook now.
Since we're officially thanks to you accepting.
I know. I thought I
3
missed
years.
it too.
What's your favorite luxury car to drive or that you've driven, Alondra?
Well, I have like luxury car. Oh, I've been in a BMW.
So
I like those.
I'm offended that you skipped right over his Porsche. Like he taught you how to drive a Porsche, but you didn't name the Porsche. Like we would unfriend you right now. Right? I'll unfriend you.
I was in a BMW in Germany. Like for me, it was like being in Germany. It was in. I was at the the factory. The coolest thing ever. You can get like a custom made BMW at the factory, and then they'll like drive it through the factory.
Same with a Porsche.
And I know, but I wasn't there at the Porsche factory. Okay, I was in the BMW factory, and I got to experience that. So like that was a really cool experience. But I did enjoy the Porsche. It was fun to drive. It was terrifying though, because it's my friend's car. If I hit something, I'm screwed.
It's okay. He's in there with you, insurance.
We were in the park.
So Byron, what's the most?
I had an Audi A4 for a little while before I traded it in for the truck. Actually,
so what made you go from an Audi to a truck? That is so Texan.
I thought I was trying to get a food truck going at the time, so that was part of the process of doing that. I do, but that was a miserable failure. I like to cook a lot of shit.
What was the food truck?
It was gonna be like wings kind of thing.
Okay.
Basically, just pretty simple. I've been baking lately.
Bacon. Ooh, I love bacon.
Made a dope ass pecan pie last week. I'm gonna do a sweet potato pie.
So you didn't bring the pecan pie with you?
It's just gone.
Have you ever done a sweet potato?
I don't think that would last
long. Sweet potato pumpkin pie, like.
No, so actually, we're making some. We're gonna make butter today. We're gonna make marijuana butter today.
Actually, I'll buy some butter.
We're making marijuana butter today. So if
make
you
a marijuana pumpkin pie.
Sweet potato.
Oh, sweet potato, fine.
No. I made a strawberry cake the other day. Now, me too.
Sweet potato.
I'm a baker.
Sweet potato pie.
You've never had a sweet potato pie?
Mm-mm.
Have you had a pumpkin pie?
Yes.
You had a sweet potato pie.
No, you haven't. Think of a pumpkin pie, but like 20 times better.
But like I don't know. I've never had. I don't really like sweet potato by itself.
I don't like sweet potato.
I don't really like pumpkins.
Yeah.
But
by itself.
Okay, pumpkin seeds are like from my mom's hometown in Mexico. Like pumpkin seeds are like the export for their state. They just make really good. Like we were coming through immigration, we're like, we just got pumpkin seeds. We're like, what is everybody has pumpkin seeds from Mexico? It's great.
Now I generally don't fuck with sweet potatoes like that. I don't do sweet potato fries. I'll do yams. Like candy yams, like I'll do that. But other than that, unless it's sweet potato pie, I don't do them. But
I had Japanese sweet potato the other day, and that was delicious.
Well, Japanese do everything better than everybody. That doesn't count. Bitches. You have to say bitches after that.
So your favorite dessert though would be?
Ice cream probably. Chocolate cake and cheesecake mixed together.
Ooh.
Like layered chocolate and chocolate cake.
I've never had it.
It's a
you're creative.
I want to smoke with you.
It was a cheesecake factory, okay guys? It was their 30th anniversary cake and they kept it on the menu because it's that good.
Bill, what's your favorite dessert? And don't say black women. Black thighs matter, yes. Go ahead.
I'm a pie person.
See, he brought the black woman up again.
Every kind of pie.
What type of pie? So I mean, are you like a cobbler or?
My grandfather used to make pies for us all the time, and actually, he got injured at work once and had to spend like a month at home with a broken leg, and he cooked dinner and pies every day was a new pie. So
Nice.
Every type of pie.
You had a
Doesn't
new
matter what
pie
it is.
every day for 2 months.
Every day.
I remember growing
That's
up, my
fine.
mom would create with, my mom worked in
I follow
banking.
this lady on Instagram that makes pretty pies. Like they're super pretty, and I just they're gorgeous pies. They're like art.
It's the same with cake. If I have someone making me a beautiful cake, I don't want to cut the cake.
I don't like frosting, but I love decorating cakes.
Okay, so I love frosting, but I don't like whipped cream frosting. It has to be like a buttercream.
Yeah, buttercream only.
Yeah.
The non-pie for me is rice pudding. Rice pudding is my favorite. So.
Arroz con
Cinnamon on
leche.
top,
You know
cinnamon
what?
on top,
Arroz con leche might actually be my favorite. Like,
Which one?
Arroz con leche. It's
That's
like
rice
it's
pudding?
like rice pudding but different.
but different.
There's another leche.
Leche.
Type of cake.
Tres leches.
Oh, that's my favorite cake. Yeah.
Tres leches. So that one I like it, but it depends on who makes it because it could get you if you put too much milk
It'd
because
be
it's
too sweet or too
no,
liquidy.
It's too soggy.
Yeah.
If it you gotta get it right, the right consistency where the milk and the bread just mix perfectly.
You're reminiscing about some shit.
I
Right there.
am.
like
Oh my god! So
it.
like, if you have a hot piece of tres leches cake, so like you pull the cake out of the oven and then you pour the milk on top because you put a lot of milk into the cake itself, but then you pour the 3 milks on top of the cake and it seeps in. Like you got to stab the cake with a fork and then it seeps in. And if you eat it when it's hot, oh my god!
Warm and moist.
Horchata, yeah.
Horchata, what is that?
Horchata is a rice
She
water.
says it completely different.
Milk. Horchata.
Horchata. Yeah.
I can make tortillas. I can make pupusas, gorditas.
Pupusas.
Pupusas.
Pupusas. Okay.
Pupusas
I
are
eat
Salvadorian.
pupusas.
Right. I've tried a pupusi once. Like
More than once.
then I realized I like El Dingaling. Like,
No,
Sorry.
yeah. And then, like, because I think once you learn how to make a tortilla, you kind of can make all the other stuff because it's all based off of masa. But you have to know the consistency that you want. I still haven't made my first batch of tamales. I'm planning on doing
now,
that.
I do have a cooking show I do once a month here. It's called Cooking with Comedians. If you guys have a recipe you want to share with somebody, and you're not ashamed to come on and cook it and prepare it and share
There will
it.
be so many practice batches that I'll bring.
I feel like a traditional Mexican cooking with comedians should happen.
Oh, I could
Should
teach you how to
happen.
make rice.
Rice?
Spanish
Yeah, red
rice?
rice.
Just regular rice?
No, Spanish rice.
No, you
Red
get
rice.
an
Oh,
Asian bag.
okay, because I have my version. We can do like a
older
Spanish.
version.
We could both do. You could do yours. I could do mine. And we
Okay.
Who's an
I would
Asian
love
comedian?
to. I would love to do that.
If we got an Asian
And
comedian.
normally we have two non-comedians on the show who are taste testers, not to judge, but
Just
just
to see.
give their intake on the flavors and the food.
That's
Now my last
that's
cooking show, we're gonna do the butter show too. My last cooking show, we did lobster macaroni and cheese and
Is that with Tyler
the
Jolly?
chicken set with Tyler Jolly. No, with not Tyler, Trevor.
Okay.
Tresmala.
Tresmala. And we started off with cocktails. Never start off with cocktails.
That's the only way to do it.
The show ended before the show began. So yeah,
I always do my research on people, and I read like all your past posts for like a year. And I
yeah.
saw the passed out.
I was drunk. I
So
woke up.
It's pretty funny. So how they
Everybody
wake up
was
naked.
gone. The dishes were clean, and the food was stored away neatly. And but the whole thing is
Oh, that happened at my housewarming party.
we cooked everything, and I don't remember
I
any of it.
invited you.
I showed up.
When was
I
this?
didn't. I
At
didn't
my
get
house. It
I
was.
didn't get an invite.
It was at the beginning of March. It was like a rushed kind of thing, and like it. But yeah, I got a little.
Oh, this is when you left that other comedian guy.
I think I
Sure.
remember this. I think
No, I actually. That was in January, and I bought a house in March all
Huh.
by myself.
Okay.
It is.
After she left that comedian guy,
So she's not married to.
I wasn't married, and
Oh.
I
who she's not married to.
never was.
No, you guys friends today?
Hmm?
Are you and the comedian guy friends today? Is there an animosity between the two of you, or just?
We're not friends.
And we'll leave it at that. Okay.
All right.
We won't even discuss his name. We're not even going to say Ryan's name.
No, it's just,
Or that he ran the underwear show we all did.
That messy.
No, it's not messy.
You can ask anything. I don't have to answer everything.
Right. Now, I will say this. Now, I've always, and I'm still a fan of Ryan's. Ryan, is a good guy. He's a creative writer, very talented guy. Since you guys broke up, I've had the opportunity to witness his penis, and I see why you left. I see exactly why you left, girl. He sent me.
First off,
hold on,
body shaming.
He sent me a link. He sent me a link.
What kind of link?
Is it to his Twitter?
It was a Twitter to his OnlyFans page.
Okay, yeah.
And I witnessed his penis, and again, congratulations for you on leaving. That wasn't enough.
I don't like the body shaming that's happening right
now. No, that's not why I left. To be clear, someone can be really great and awesome and funny and really good to everyone and around everyone, but then at home it can be very different.
Okay.
So, and I think what happened is we were both toxic to each other. Like I pushed on his buttons and he pushed on my buttons in a way that created they created an environment. That's why it's like one of those things where I'm like, yeah, of course. I don't wish him any ill will. It's just I'm not going to invest any more of myself. He did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
but I didn't stop him.
That takes a real woman to admit the fact that a man said, you know what, I'm not going to take your taking care of me anymore. I'm going to leave.
I was like, okay, bye. It went both ways. I think we were pushing it off for so long. Like I wanted to, and then he wanted to, and then I wanted to, and then, like I said, we were toxic to each other. So it was like, yeah, we can be good people to other people, but to each other, it didn't work. And we wanted it to, but
now I am a fan of yours, and I'm also a fan of Ryan's. And this is no disrespect to you or to Ryan. I just wish both of you the best, and everything happens for a reason. I think the fact that you and I met through Ryan is an honor and a privilege, because had you not met him, I would have never.
Well, we would have met. I'm a comic. I was around, and we would have met eventually. I know that.
I didn't know you.
We would have pushed her up.
No, because I got into Vegas about 3. So I got into Vegas comedy.
I remember your first set. Your first set was, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, your first set was at Noreen's. Rebar. Okay, so I met you at Noreen's.
I started comedy in South Carolina when I was in college. I'm from Vegas, and so I moved back home, and I came back in January of 2019, and so I started comedy here, and I was really consistent from like February on. So and then Ryan and I started dating in like officially like in front of everybody in April. So most people don't remember those 2 months where I wasn't dating him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
There are a couple people who do remember before, but.
Well, I'm glad we had the opportunity to meet before and
yeah.
after the Brian thing. Again, I'm a fan of yours. Very creative writer, very talented young lady. Bill, when writing jokes,
yes,
are there some words you want to say or some things you want to discuss, topics that you feel like are out of your genre? Is that the right word?
Wheelhouse.
No, I think if I think something's funny, I wouldn't want to talk about it, no matter what it is.
Okay.
Just that most of my stuff is, Bill TC is the character. It's not 100% me. It's kind of a blend, but the Bill TC really is the cop stuff. So most of it all is cop related, whether it was pulling over an old lady story that I had.
Okay. And I'm glad you said.
Or it's about weapons and tasers and things like that, about the misuse of them, which I've witnessed many, many times and been a part of. And I have lots of stories and jokes about those. And that's what I have no problem talking about.
Now, I'm glad you said that Bill is not who I am. So when comedians post on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook about how they feel about what's going on in today's society with racism and police brutality, and it's viewed as a negative or viewed as an insult or a racist comment, is that who they are? Or do they think that they're being sarcastic, and should they be ridiculed for what they've posted?
It's kind of weird because sometimes I think a disclaimer at the bottom or at the top or whatever being like, this is what the intent was, but then it's also like, well, if you assign intent, then how is it art? Because art is also about interpretation, and comedy is art.
That's why I love you. I swear to God, you just put the answer on everything. Go ahead, Byron.
I would say, if I don't think it makes a difference if that's the person or the character, because why would you want to embody that character in the first place? So I hate them both.
Bill.
You don't see any opinions on my Bill TC thing ever.
We weren't friends.
Pages and where people go. I read.
We weren't friends, so I
stuff.
didn't see it because I don't know. Okay, but go ahead.
I still look at yours, and even without being friends, I can still look at the whole But
don't feel that ego, man.
I don't feel bad at all. But to me, that never had a social media presence because I don't think it's right. I think social media is really the downfall of a lot of what happens in the country today, because people, their opinions are great and you should have your opinion, but when you put it out there and think that that's the law, like your opinion matters so much, I have problems with that. I always will, because I think it gets arguments between people that didn't need to know such intricate details about people sometimes. I learn about a lot of people because I read all their stuff, and you won't see me comment. Very rarely do I comment on somebody's stuff.
You never commented on that.
I commented on things that are, I put likes on people's page and stuff like that. Well, your stuff's not popping up unless I go look for it. Okay. Because you didn't tick me to a friend, and now I will. I already got one of your posts pop up here already today. So now you'll start seeing likes from me and
now keep in mind when I'm posting out of from a comedic point. A lot of people will inbox me and is like, "Are you serious? Would you do that to your son? Or is that what you think of America?" Really, but these are just, to me, they're jokes and they're funny. And when I get a certain ratio of likes, that's probably the material I'll use on stage. If it doesn't hit home or it doesn't get the notoriety that I want, that's not the comedy that I'll present in front of an audience.
I think there's a lot of intentionality behind social media. So as a comic, I have my personal Facebook account, and I don't really post a lot of comedy on there. That's just me being on Facebook, checking up with my friends, like the initial reason that we started Facebook. But then on Twitter, I go more for comedy and more for the laughs and the fun.
Keep talking. I gotta use the
and then I don't know. I think because as everything that I've done, because I've run other people's social media and stuff, it's really about being as intentional as possible. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel that. I don't feel like there's anything I won't say. I think that's a little bit of black privilege as far as being a comedian. I can get away with a lot of things. I can say pretty much whatever I want to say for the most part.
I can say a lot of things too, being Mexican, but there's certain things I can't say, obviously.
Yeah.
There's
one word you can't get away with.
I'm white, I can't say anything.
That's true.
Don't try to.
So like being able to say anything, it's nice, but it's funny for me. It's because I can say a lot of things, and then I'll have people be offended and say something about it, and I'm like, I mean, I am Mexican. I can talk about my culture and my lifestyle and my family.
I think you can say anything. For one, it better be funny.
Yeah.
If you're pushing that edge, it better be fucking funny.
Right. You can say anything you want.
Yeah.
You're going to pay the consequences for some things if you say the wrong type of thing, and you'll find out pretty quickly because people are going to respond and tell you.
Right.
You should never have said that.
I like turning over and seeing you say, you can say anything you want as you're like pouring more vodka into a cup.
More.
Hold on.
But yeah, like you can. There's some things, like, even if it's meant in the context of a joke, it's like, all right, that's just so blatantly out there. There's no other way to interpret this as far as this is just wrong. It's just offensive.
Yeah, I think something really important too is a lot of people talk about freedom of speech and how they're invoking their right to freedom of speech and all of these things, and it's very important to know those rights. But if you're gonna say it, know that you're right when you say it.
Right.
like say this is my freedom of speech, right? It's like, well, actually, if you do these certain things, so like say you make a joke about someone and it does, like you're like, that could be defamation or slander. You don't know until you know.
Yeah.
And so you can't be like, oh, everything I do is I'm allowed to say everything. It's like, no.
Yeah. Well, my thing on the freedom of speech thing is like, well, what the fuck do you want to say? What do you want to say that's not allowed? Like, it sounds bad.
Yeah.
For the most.
Like I've heard so many stories of comics being like, I had to pull my black friend aside to see if I could tell this joke, and I'm like, I don't. If you thought you needed to ask someone if this was funny. Now, like I did, what is it, BoJack Horseman, right? My friend. So he's a very he's like the tallest black man I know. He's 6'4" and like just big and bulky, and he lived with two middle-aged white guys at the time, and his roommate was like texting him and was like, hey, I thought this was funny, but like, is it okay for me to laugh at this particular joke or something? I don't know what was going on. It was just like, he was like, it's like borderline racist, but it's really funny. And then he was like, you asking about it, I mean, yeah, like
you already feel, it shows you don't even feel comfortable telling it.
Yeah.
Bill, like as a white man, have you ever written a joke that you felt like, maybe not?
No. I'll tell you, I've been told by people not to tell my Bill TC material and not to do the joke that day. Go into an open mic or go into a place that was majority black.
Because if like something happened,
and
like,
someone come up telling me like, this would not be a good time to say that you're a cop or to say any of your jokes. I have a joke about a racist bullet. I don't use that joke all the time, but it's a good joke. I've used it here and there. You know? But when I put it out, there, the one day I was told not to do my material by a white friend. It was like, I don't think you should do your material. I'm like, well, then what am I going to do? Because that's my material.
Yeah.
I got up there and did my material, and it crushed. It was great. Had a great time. Spent the night drinking and partying the whole night long. It was one of Randall's open mics that he had before the dive bar and stuff like that.
Money Plays.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly where we're at. I just know it was a majority. What's that?
Motor City.
Actually, yeah, I think it was Motor City, but it was probably like a 90% black crowd. Right. And a friend of mine was like, maybe you shouldn't say the Bill TC, you shouldn't do the cop stuff. And I'm like, but I am Bill TC, and that's my material, so I'm going to do it. And I
don't ever want a comedian to change who they are or change their material because of a situation we're going through.
I think the best example that I've ever heard from anyone is like Ty Rivera. He's a very openly gay, very he says things just to say them, like in a good way, like they're funny and they're hysterical. Sometimes people get upset at what he says, right? He mentions it, and he talks about how he'll do a lot of shows at redneck bars where he's like, I don't think they're LGBTQ friendly, but then they just like, they enjoy him, they like his comedy, they enjoy what he's doing, and so it's like,
and I think that's why you can't judge the book by the cover kind of thing, or try to assume that.
And I mean, being a comic, like these people know that you're like, the whole goal is for them, they're like, I'm coming to see comedy, I want to laugh.
Right.
So I think if you're funny enough and you're doing it and you're sticking to yourself and not trying to go off of someone else's life and like be funny on that, then I think you'd be okay.
Can't fake the funk in this game.
For that day, for me, it was before people really knew who Bill TC was. I was very new. I was like, all right, this may be my 5th open mic type of thing going to. And I go there and be told, hey, don't do that. I'm like, well, that's all I have. First of all, I'm doing 5 minutes. I only have 5 minutes. I didn't have like an hour's worth of stuff to pick from and say, I'm going to pick 5 minutes today that's not going to potentially offend somebody. But I'll tell you, the people that day, especially, there's a part where I put on my sunglasses because I tell you, wait, can see a cop, right? I look like a regular person until I put these on, and it changes everything. And Melvin Washington jumped up from his chair when I did that and put himself in the frisking position, like, oh shit, a cop. Like, and had everybody rolling and laughing, and everybody joined in for the rest of the night. The whole thing, that was the joke. Every time I'd walk past, like, there's the cop. And like,
was that offensive to you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Hold on, I have a question from a friend of mine. Tab, so is social media your way of trying out your material before you do it on stage? Miss LaTron, no, it's not. Now, I will write some jokes on the majority of the items I post online or post on Facebook or whatever, or just shit that's funny to me. I'll never say it on stage. Now, if it's something that I want to say on stage and I need to get like a feedback before I do it, I will post it, and if it gets 0 likes, I'll delete it and work on it, and then reproduce it or post it after I have some type of input or where I need to change it or redirect it. So no. So all of my stuff I post online, I don't say on stage. If that's what you're asking.
Some written jokes don't translate.
Right. It's funny on paper.
Yeah.
And then when you say it.
Well, like, because like I want to read it, but then as soon as you try to say it, it's like, oh, that might be too long or too short or something.
And that's the thing about stage. You really have to cut a lot of stuff out. I mean, I learned that.
Yeah.
The cutting stuff out, recording things.
Or bring a lot in, because you can have it written,
right?
And if you don't have a stage presence or an act out or what's the other thing I'm looking for, or
tags,
right. then it may not work for you. I mean, it could be the best written joke, but again, if you can't sell it on stage or produce it on stage.
I found some things that are funny as hell that just didn't work on stage. Like they end up making great sketches. Like it might not work on stage, but it's probably going to be a dope ass sketch if you can just pull from.
Or I've had a one-liner that was a dope one-liner, and then someone said, "Well, I think that'd be a great story," and then I transformed that one-liner into a story, and it was the best story ever.
I definitely think it's like, do you guys feel like sometimes being able to explore sketches and improv is like, once you start exploring that, did you guys ever feel that like maybe that's what you wanted to do more than stand up, but you're good at stand up, so you do it too?
I haven't done improv in a while. I won like some competitions in high school for improv, and then I did a little bit in college. But I want to start. I did, Tab. I got medals at home to prove that shit.
I didn't say nothing.
I saw you.
Oh.
I can see you.
Wait, is it like my dare medal?
Like who?
I have a dare medal.
No, it's like UIL competitions. Like
so hold on. Let's go back to the
I do
question.
want to do improv. I do want to like get with like some of those guys just to do improv, because like crowd work is one thing like that I really want to get better on and like kind of go just fuck around with and see. So I think improv would help with that.
So yes, you're right, Latron. Delivery does make a difference. So you can have a story written, or you can have something that is creative, and if you don't deliver it the way it was in your head, or the audience don't perceive it the way you delivered it, it can be misconstrued. And I've even had someone tell me that was racist or that wasn't mean. And it's nothing like the retarded joke that Byron says. Some people will take that. I mean, it's the funniest shit I've ever heard. But it's some people who may have a retarded family member, or who hates the word
reason I
retarded.
love that joke is because when I first get into it, it catches everybody off guard. But the more I go, like I can see people hating themselves for laughing, and that's the part I love the most. It's like, oh yeah, you don't want to laugh.
Did I just laugh at that joke?
Open it up, open it, and by the time I hit that last line, it's just that usually just kills me.
I told a joke years ago. It was I couldn't keep a job, and I got fired from my last job for calling Tyrone tardy at a special ed school. I got fired from the HIV clinic.
He's late,
right? Because he was late. Because I called him a little tardy. Yeah. Okay. So I got fired from the HIV clinic because he said I told Raymond to stay a little positive. And HIV being positive is how you. So it was, and then I had people from the HIV community hit me up like, I don't think that was funny and that was appropriate. I said, if you listen to the whole scale of it, that shit was creative and that shit was funny.
I'm not making fun of people with HIV.
I'm not making. It wasn't my intent to hurt the feelings of people with HIV. If you listen to it, I told him to stay positive without knowing the fact that he was positive.
Hey, keep your head up.
So sometimes the material backfires, and it's still funny to me. Yeah. But you got to remember that it's not funny to everybody else.
I've noticed a lot of my jokes, I push the edge a little bit. And I do that intentionally also, because I got to do something that's going to make me laugh for one. But again, I always try to I try to get something out of it. I want you to get something out of my jokes. So I feel like if I fuck with you enough and you laugh at that, you took something from it. I don't know. That's just in my weird way. That's what works.
You made somebody's day.
I want people not to think cops so serious all the time.
Yeah.
And to see that there is some humor in some of this stuff. I mean, my goal is not necessarily to be a super successful
and I'm glad you said that, Bill.
I want to be a writer. I write TV show ideas, movies, and stuff like that. Things I'm working on today to hope to get that. I like acting. There's things I want to do. I'm pretty character.
And I'm glad you
stuff.
said that. I think where the whole problem lies is we only see the bad.
Right.
The media only shares the bad. The internet only shares the bad.
Wow.
We very, very, very rarely see the good in cops. And
There's
again,
a very real statement that I've always kind of, so having a background in journalism, anytime someone talks about the media, if it bleeds, it leads. Because as soon as you hear about something violent, a shooting, a fire, anything that happens, it's a lead story because that's what people want to know about immediately because they're concerned and they're interested. And what happened over time is that people became way more concerned about the if it bleeds, it leads. People, consumers, wanted to see those stories more. So then advertisers, which is how newspapers and broadcast stations make money, is by making sure they have viewership and advertisers, because everything unfortunately is a business. And so they didn't want to look at the other stories. They were like, oh, cool, I got my main story, I got my headline, and then I don't have to look into the other stories that are going on around the world. And so those stories became more prominent because it was the only way for journalists to make money and to be able to keep their libraries and keep their investigative journalism going is by having a big portion of their income come from breaking news.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is nobody wanted to invest in investigative journalism or in detail civil story, basically like, your arts and leisure stories and things like that, or even just stories about, because I wrote for news and arts and culture, and I remember more of my news stories would get like a like or a follow or whatever.
And I'm glad you said that about the journalism. When I joined the radio, I joined as Tabitha, which is my legal name. And they said, you need a name that's going to make people remember you. And my part on the show was to deliver morning gossip about celebrities and stuff. And I came up with the name Tabloid because Tabitha's my name. And then being Tabitha and Tab, we combined the two, made Tabloid. And I kept the name even going into comedy. But with that being said, I didn't like the morning gossip anymore because I felt like I was in people's business, and I'm a private person. I live a private life.
So I can instigate.
And right. So me being in people's business and sharing the gossip, then I felt like that's not where I wanted to be in entertainment. I didn't want to do that. I did it for 4 years, and I was just drained. And I didn't want to share that part of exploiting other people's lives, good or bad. I just wanted to be. I felt like if I can live a private lifestyle and no one ever says anything about me on TV, media, publications, I wanted to keep it that way. So I left. I chose to leave the radio and kept the name Tabloid because I didn't want to. Again, I didn't want to exploit other people. Again, my business is my business, and those people' business is their business. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But like she said, like it's the bullshit that gets the likes. So unfortunately, I hate it because it's me, like as a black dude, you see the shit that they used to put on the news like in the 80s and the 90s. Like that's why pretty much over the globe, everybody hates black people or are scared of black people. Like, why do people in China hate black people? There's no black people in China. Like, why the fuck do you hate black people if you're over there? But it's what you saw on the news. You saw the gangsters and the rappers and how dangerous black people are. And now you're scared and you hate them. And that shit carries over. But same difference.
Yeah,
But now cops are
when news
seeing
became
that.
a 24-hour business instead of just reporting the news anymore. When it became a news channel that has 24-hour news, it became all about opinion.
Well,
It's
the
no longer
news
about
channel-
just reporting the news anymore. You take a story and you twist
Yeah.
it to make it sound like your thing. If you look
Well,
at headlines,
I
Opinion,
love the
entertainment.
idea. I love
When
the
people-
concept of a 24-hour news channel
if
initially.
it's telling news,
But
right.
unfortunately, what's happening, so like, you see, if you turn on any of the major news networks, you see the reel that's constantly going of the news that's happening, and then they have their shows that are talking about their opinions or expanding on one thing, and then they're focused on a very specific
The
thing
problem with
What's
all
you look
day
at you
for
look at
24
social media
hours.
type of thing. It's
I'd rather
created
see
all
the
that.
news on the reel. I'd rather see people talking about the reel, which is the running
Yeah.
on
But
the
even
bottom.
then, they've switched to how to put a headline together. If you read a headline, even the people post stuff,
Yeah.
they'll post a headline and then you get all these comments about this headline. If you actually read the story, it is not what the headline says.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The headline says
Even-
an unarmed guy or whatever
Clickbait.
happens. But if you read the story, then you see, but nobody
Clickbait.
reads the story. So they can put the truth in the story. And then they say we didn't lie.
And you're right.
We wrote the details, but nobody reads that. They just read the headline and maybe the first couple
And
sentences.
run with, and they run
and
with
then they
it.
jump off of there and
And
they're
they
all
run
over
with it.
how evil this person was or how this was. I'm like, you didn't
Well, and
read the
people
freaking
aren't
story.
reading. People aren't reading stories anymore. That's the most unfortunate part. Like I said, it sucks.
If
that-
it doesn't have a video, they're not reading it.
Yeah.
In people's defense,
What's that?
America's a very dumb country.
No, but even yeah,
In
we-
people's defense.
it sucks because I went into journalism and I loved writing and I went into a lot of detail in a lot of my articles, and it would be one of those, yeah, we're gonna cut I only had 500 words to do it because nobody's gonna read anything longer, kind of thing. Like, yeah, I could write a 10-page paper on this, but instead I'm gonna have to write 500 pages.
But I think that's like the problem with a 24-hour news network. It's not just opinions. At some point, you got to make that shit entertaining. So now you don't have opinions. You got hot takes.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask
They
you
do
this.
this
So
stuff to get your attention, and then they talk about they swerve an opinion for what their audience is, and that's
Yeah.
Right.
when
That's how you get Fox and CNN.
Bill, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Alondra, let me ask you this question. So if you feel like the media is this big umbrella, if we remove certain words from it, do you think that'll change the way we deliver the news? And to me, let me share with you my opinion. The minute we throw black in it, a black man killed by a white man, we all want to tune in for it. But if we just say, man, a suspect killed by an armed officer, we probably won't even read that article. So I think the minute that we throw in race and color and ethnic backgrounds into it, it brings
these are the things
attention.
you can never fix. The racist type problems that happen if everybody constantly concentrates on that. It's a sad thing. I don't see how to fix it because I'm not the genius guy that's going to come up with some plan tomorrow and say how we can fix all this stuff.
Well, I don't think the problem is talking about it. The problem, you can't change what's in somebody's heart.
Right.
So you can't fix racism.
But you can make things illegal they're legal now. I think there's things that shouldn't be allowed to go on.
Right. But
I'm a big history buff. I'm a huge history person from every type of history. And I go way back. You can go as far back to when Lincoln first emancipated the slaves. And today's the Juneteenth, so the perfect day to bring it up. You know, most people don't know that Trump was not stupid when he said, "I brought this to light," which is he's an idiot. I'll 100% say he's an idiot. He is. But
well, you know what?
There's a lot of white people.
Stop. Let me stop you right there
Okay.
because in Trump's, I'm not a Trump supporter in by no means. Ace, who's in the audience right now, found out about it yesterday when we talked about it. He didn't know anything about
1865.
He didn't know
Right?
anything about
1865,
the Juneteenth,
which is how many years after the Emancipation?
But again, the young people who didn't know about it. So Trump did bring it to light to people who were uneducated about it.
Correct.
But those people who the majority knew about it and was aware of it.
The thing is, how small does your dick have to be to try to take credit for such?
No, he took credit.
That's the overall thing.
They're all talking about it now. I brought this up, but I do know a lot of people that didn't know about it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I'm a
A lot of
historian.
people outside of Texas don't know about
And
it.
I can tell you, I go way back to when they finally ended slavery, which didn't end when they ended slavery, but the problems that happened right then. Grant became president because Lincoln was killed. The Ku Klux Klan became a force and started killing people down south. Grant put an army together, sent Union soldiers down there and wiped out the KKK. Wiped them out. Problem is, once he wiped them out, they went back up north again where they belonged. And that's when new rules started coming about. They're like, okay, well,
hold on. You say that's where they belong. Is that where they belong?
No, that's where they came from. That's where the soldiers came.
Okay, let's say that. Don't say that's where they belong.
Well, they went back to where their homes were.
Okay.
They went back to where they were because why are we spending government money? Which things that were now other issues were coming up in the country. So they go back up there and it becomes forgotten. They let the South take care of themselves. The problem is that's when segregation laws and stuff like that, like, okay, if people are free, fine, but we don't have to live with them. That's when all the segregation stuff started getting put into place. They also realized that Lincoln's Emancipation Act didn't handle the bordering country, the bordering states that weren't part of the actual Confederacy. So Texas pretty much got a free pass, and Texas held on to slavery for a very long time, and that's where the Juneteenth comes in. June 19th, 1865, when the Major General took 200 Union soldiers to Texas to declare black men are free.
And
they
were
part of
the thing. However,
making sure they finished the season
with soldiers. And the problem is, as soon as they left, though, but when they left, what happened? A lot of people went back into slavery. They continued. It still went on. It's not until in the.
It's not like the end of slavery. Really it's sad, like, okay, we're going to give you a salary now.
But this is 1865. It goes until past 1930 before technically there are no slaves in Texas.
Mississippi just technically abolished slavery like 5 years ago.
Ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. It should never happen, and you can't go back and fix that.
Exactly.
How do you fix it now?
Yeah, I think at this point, what America's done is unfixable. Especially, you look at like the start, like how a big assignment of policemen were to hunt slaves and catch them.
Right, you can't look back and say police are evil because their original job was to hunt slaves.
I'm not saying the ones now, but I'm saying when your foundation.
But a lot of them carry that trait or that with them.
What I'm saying
people
is,
say a lot of them. I still don't say
what
a
I'm
lot.
saying is,
I say a lot because we only hear the bad. We don't ever hear the good.
Right.
I'm saying when your foundation is built off of that, that sets a bad precedent. And then you consider that, and then you got racist judges, DAs, prosecutors. There's literally almost nothing you can do to fix the system outside of,
and I agree with that.
Kicking everybody.
There's the Innocent Project, which I'm a huge supporter of and always have been, for people that were unrightfully put into prison, and the Innocent Project managed to get people out. I realize that the problem is not just the police.
Bill,
the problem is
Bill, let me ask you a question. Have you ever fucked a black woman?
Why ask such personal question? But yes.
You have. Okay, I needed to know.
I told you before, I had a long time.
Someone asked the question here. So
you're the one who said you never fucked a white guy.
I had a long-term girlfriend.
I've never fucked a white guy, but
you're the racist.
Hold on, I'm the racist, but I want to. That has been my fantasy forever.
The guy with the Nazi signs
Ace, honestly, when we talked the other day, you was like, "What's your fantasy?" And I was like, "I watch white porn. I want to fuck a white guy."
Caught her on that one.
Oh,
the guy with the Nazi symbols wasn't white.
He was, but
you just said you never.
You never fucked a white guy?
I didn't. God damn it! Stop.
We caught you.
Let me rewind this.
A long-term girlfriend I had was black, and I do have racist people in my family. I grew up around some racism, which I didn't realize, and I was shocked to find some racist people. But I had a girlfriend.
When were your grandparents born? Like, I'm not saying your grandparents are racist, but what year were they born?
Absolutely, 1920s and stuff like that. Absolutely. My grandfather, I've heard him use the N-word. And then at the same time, he would not seem racist at times.
Right.
Because to him, that wasn't a word that he thought was a racist word, although I've heard him use it. And then I've seen him be very kind to people of all types.
Now, you weren't
my grandmother, because they were in a different era.
You're wearing a New York shirt right now. Is that a New York shirt or is that a you nigga shirt? A you nigga is like... Someone asked that question.
I love New York Yankee stuff. I've gone to baseball games since I was 5 years old.
So what is it? Because okay, so being Mexican, being Mexican, I am a person of color, but then it's also like just because I'm a person of color doesn't mean that my family doesn't have anti-blackness in them. And that's one of the biggest things to watch is we're brown, but we're not black. You know, watching people say that.
Y'all got your own internalized racism too. The lighter Mexicans versus the darker ones, and other Hispanics.
It's more of a classist system. It's more of a classist system in Mexico, but it is still.
But what about other Latinos like Dominicans, Puerto Ricans?
No, it's
Cubans?
a very different system. Yeah, it's both national and color, and I know, and I see that. Yeah. But like I said, being Mexican doesn't absolve me from growing up with relatives who were anti-black. Actually, very interesting is my great grandmother was European, and she married an indigenous man. And then my grandfather, who was her son, like married my grandmother, and she was mad. She's like a white European lady mad at her son for marrying an indigenous person when she married an indigenous man. So it was a very complicated. It was like a very complicated realm to be in and to watch and to see growing up. Like my dad has those tendencies as well. He would say things about the kind of man he wanted me to marry and be with and stuff.
Not a black guy.
Yeah, no, he said he didn't say it like that. My dad always said not a lazy guy.
Grape juice.
And who does he associate with laziness?
See, that's not fair because everybody's lazy compared to Mexicans.
But that's funny because like the stereotype of the lazy Mexican was around for so long, and it's like
I don't see how black people got a stereotype of lazy.
Yeah, I've never met a lazy Mexican.
Let me say,
I've never met a lazy slave. How the fuck did that get there?
I think I would have been a definition of a lazy slave.
You would have been dead. You've been a dead slave.
I would have been gone in history as let's not forget about the lazy slave. Tabitha, she was lazy as fuck. Like she didn't do nothing. But with that being said, Alondra, I've never seen a lazy Mexican ever.
Yes.
I didn't say we didn't say lazy.
You guys met me, right? You guys have met me, right?
Wait. I didn't say they didn't exist. I'm just saying I never met one.
No,
but let me say.
I'm lazy in some aspects, but I do know that I push myself really hard to finish school super early, and I'm 24 and I finished my master's degree 2 years ago.
Nice.
You know, like
that don't mean your pussy good though.
Actually,
Spanish. They don't have nothing. Like I know it don't have nothing to do with it. I know. Don't tell me about it.
I don't know. From my experience, Spanish.
It doesn't mean it, but it doesn't mean it's not.
Bill was like, I ain't saying nothing.
My first wife.
I still love how she emptied out your house.
She did.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to generalize.
When we got divorced, my first wife took off with everything. I went to sleep and I said, "You take what you need." And when I woke up, I came out of the bedroom and everything was gone. They left my TV on the floor. But everything was gone. I walk into the kitchen.
The box TV or the flat screen TV?
Just a box TV.
All
of this stuff was gone. Everything was gone. I'm glad I still was on the bed I was sleeping on. That was there. But I woke up, I walk out, and everything is gone.
Almost like a movie.
I walk into the kitchen. All the dishes, silverware, everything's gone. I'm thinking, that's the way it goes. But I got a plastic cup, so I'm like, I'm going to get myself some ice, water. You know, I open up the freezer. Even the ice cube trays were gone. I was like, look at everything.
So when you fucked, let me tell you what the whole fuck up was. No, Byron, let me fix this. The whole fuck up was you didn't have an automatic ice maker. If you had ice trays, I'd have left you too.
This is back when box TVs were a thing. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
1998 in my first little apartment when I moved out here.
Okay.
It didn't have a whole lot.
I want to know what you.
No, are you and her friends today?
Oh no, Sean.
No.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
Actually, her daughter and I are still friends because I helped with her daughter, and the breakup wasn't about not getting along and stuff like that. I just got out of the academy. No, I just got out of the academy and everything. I was a brand new officer, and we were trying to make ends meet. She didn't have a job. Her daughter was in first grade by then, kindergarten to first grade. Over that was our relationship, and she had a lot of time at home, and that's how things went. And eventually, she was from New Mexico. We moved out here, so this was a big change for her. We're a small town in New Mexico, is where I met her.
I have a question that's online. This is for you, Alondra. Do Mexicans still think of blacks as being the bottom of the race pole?
Okay, so it's
yes.
Yeah. I mean, like personally speaking, from my personal experience, I know a lot of Mexicans who are becoming more woke, of course, but it's still generationally like so yes.
So who's on the bottom for you?
For me?
Asians.
For me, there is no bottom.
I have Puerto Rican relatives.
I'm the bottom.
She answered that.
No, but
I think for everybody, black people are on the bottom. Like universally, globally, it's black people at the bottom. Outside of Africa, like that's how just other people view us. That's what it is. So that's kind of what we're
doing. Not necessarily. Like different tribes are on the bottom versus other tribes, right? Like traditionally, historically, one tribe was under another tribe, and they were taking over other people, and the whole trade started because of because of a tribal war. And it's not a bad thing. And I'm saying this as like the reality is people always want someone to be under them. Because it's a power complex, it's a survival complex, and fun complex, depending on which way you look at it.
Thank you.
So
hold on, I don't mean. I have to give a shout out to my bartender who made this amazing idea. And if you know what idea is, it's a light bulb, right? When you think of idea, it's a light bulb, right? So he added some whiskey with ice. And it's amazing straw.
Amazing whiskey and
right,
ice.
Amazing ice. And then he added some, check this out. Write this down. Some grape juice. Oh my God. It's like the Lord's Supper. It's like Jesus, right.
I advise y'all to get a
everyone thinks black people.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
so
it shouldn't happen.
Say it again.
Well, no, it's just it happened, and it's like it's kind of like how I grew up thinking a certain thing. I'm trying to think like how to make tortillas properly, you know, and that's the way that it's been done for 100 years. But that doesn't mean that's how we have to do it forever. Like I'm pretty sure the first person to ever make a flour tortilla was like, holy crap, like I'm breaking tradition. And then here we have a flour tortilla that's amazing.
Magic.
Because like the first, you know, the tortillas were always corn. They were from Aztecs and Mayans. They've always been corn because corn is what
before flour.
And then flour happened, and we were like, holy fuck, flour's great.
They're racist. Did you see they made a flour tea over there? But have you tried it? Like,
no,
well, let me go try it. Like, I don't know.
So it's like we can't. So it's like we can't change the corn. Or like we had corn tortillas, we can't change it. That's tradition. And then someone has a flour tortilla, and they finally try a flour tortilla, and it's like, oh, actually, this isn't that bad. We can have flour tortillas all over the place. Now, the goal with racism is like to be like, yeah, actually, let's just only have flour tortillas instead of the traditional, because racism is obviously, you don't want that. Kind of thing.
I'm on a keto diet, so no flour tortillas.
Yeah. Well, you gotta.
But El Pollo Loco has saved the day because they came up with the keto taco, which is an almond flour they use to make their.
Wait, isn't it corn?
But they don't sell that almond flour tortilla.
It's corn tortilla?
No,
tortilla.
You can't use corn because corn
is it a tortilla, right?
Is it a
tortilla, right? Of corn. I mean, an almond tortilla, right?
They use the almond flour to make the tortilla.
Okay, but they don't use that. They don't use that. So if I come in there to get the whole chicken family deal, the 25 for 25, they don't sell that separately. They only sell
only
it
as the keto.
And I don't like that.
Taco.
And that's racist.
Do they have a keto version of racism?
That's what it's starting to be.
That's what we need.
That's racist. Just like Sonic doesn't have the fried chicken sandwich on Sundays.
What?
See, you didn't even know that.
I did not know that.
You didn't know that. I didn't know until I went there on Sundays. They was like, that's a Monday through Saturday menu item. If you read the fine print, it says that.
The guy at the Sonic drive-thru
could be a
ask for my number if that's a story.
Been doing the keto thing for more than a year.
Without seeing you?
No, like.
Oh, okay. Like what?
Nah, he saw me and he was like, he said something about getting me barbecue sauce anytime I wanted, and then asked for my number, and I was like, okay.
That's how you get the pussy off for some condiments.
I was just like,
you know what I'm saying, baby? Take some of this ranch.
Ew, barbecue, come on.
Take some of this barbecue. Either way, I'm dropping that dick. You know
Wait a minute.
I'm dipping in something.
Either way it go, it's the white sauce.
You know what I'm saying?
It's going to end up with a white sauce.
It's going to get saucy.
Okay. Right. You're like me.
Really, I don't know.
I don't know how I came up with this stuff.
Hey, you get you get some pussy.
But what are we talking about? Because now
we have no fucking idea.
Random question?
Oh, random question.
Okay.
Speaking of which,
no, like off the wall random.
No, these are questions.
Cool.
Go ahead, Byron.
Okay.
So a lot of times we have writers who write in and we tell them who's on the show, and they want to know a little bit about our special guests.
Yeah, but these aren't for y'all specifically.
So Byron's going through to see which one is directly
might pertain to
you. Go ahead. Again, if you
said
want
you were
to,
gonna do it.
again, if you want to write in these questions
So
to
when you
our
said
audience,
Oh no.
it's all.over.laughs LAFFS@AOL.com, alloverlaughs.com, and you can ask our audience members whatever you
I'm
want to
gonna
ask.
start
them.
writing in.
Wait,
Please
what?
do.
I absolutely am.
Did you say AOL?
At AOL, all over laughs, AOL.com.
LAFFS.
Right, I said that.
I was just making sure. I'll fuck it up. All right, guys. This is going to be for everybody. This question here.
Oh, okay. So,
All right. Who is the most overrated comedian?
Ooh.
I'm gonna go with that black girl in Vegas tabloid. I mean, like they keep paying her and booking her, and she's
Answer the
really
question.
not that funny. No, I'm gonna say Tiffany Haddish.
Okay. I can understand it. I'm not the biggest fan of her stand-up. I think she's great in movies, but stand-up wise,
I'd rather say
do
she's
without.
I'd rather say she's better in movies than stand up. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But I met her as a stand up comedian before the movies.
Yeah.
And I was a fan of her as stand up. But then when I saw her stand up after the movies, she's better in movies than stand up.
I think her pre-famous stand-up was better than her now famous stand-up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're all on the
So
same
I
page.
agree with that. I agree with you.
Do you have a particular
You got one?
overrated?
No.
No.
But
You got
yeah.
one in your head. I can see your eyes. You got one in your head.
It could be
You got a name,
local.
you
It
just
could
don't
be
wanna say it.
local.
Ooh, local.
No.
Ryan Barrasso.
No.
Okay, sorry. Take that back.
You have to be rated to be overrated.
Oh.
Ooh, slubs.
That's pretty good.
Boom, boom. Do we have a what do you call that? The rim shots? The rim
I know.
shot? Yeah. Right.
Bill, you got an overrated guy?
There's a lot of comedians I see that I don't think are that funny
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
a regular basis. So I don't name a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Tiffany Haddish that you named, I watched her special after she became famous. I didn't think it was that funny. I
Yeah.
didn't really laugh that much in the whole damn thing. I was like,
He didn't say
Yeah.
the show. He said the whole damn thing.
right.
Oh,
And that's important.
I did. I watched it. I don't just shut things on. I know people that watch a couple jokes that's not funny.
No,
They
you
just
know,
turn it off.
I'm
I'll
that
watch
person.
the whole thing.
I'm
I'll watch
that
a whole
person.
series. I don't like the first episode, but I'll watch every episode.
So
And maybe it gets funny along the way, and then when it's all over, I'm like, well, that was a waste of.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. I watched the Dave Chappelle 846, and I expected it to be funny. I expected it to be delivery. I expected it to be hilarious, and it was not.
He wasn't supposed to be.
I know.
The
But
last
what I'm
one.
saying,
Right.
we're talking Dave Chappelle though.
Right.
So I mean, it was enlightening. It was educational.
And
it
it
was
was put out
informative.
as a
It'd be
comedy.
different, right? But if Dave Chappelle was trying to make you laugh, it'd be different. Like he
Right, he
wasn't
was.
trying to make you laugh.
Right,
But I think those people paid to see a funny.
It should have been put out as the Dave Chappelle.
But I would listen to
It's a
Dave
name
Chappelle
for
just
it.
talk.
I would
Well,
too.
I
I would
like
too.
what
But
is
but I also have to put myself in a an audience perspective. And if you read the reviews from it on YouTube, those people who were in the audience were like, I didn't pay the $38 to see this, or
He said,
I'm a different.
He said that.
Right.
So I'm gonna say mine is perfect timing. Chris D'Elia. He's
Okay,
never
that's
been
who I
funny to
was
me.
on my
Never been
And
funny to
like
me
as soon as you guys
I'm
were
kind of
like,
glad
Who?
he's done.
Chris
Chris
D'Elia.
D'Elia.
Who's
Yeah,
that?
the guy who's
Yeah, exactly.
Like, getting called
Big
out
Trouble.
for grooming and
Big Trouble right
grooming
now
underage
for
girls.
asking
70?
for sex pictures and
The 70
nude
show,
stuff.
Chris?
No.
That's Hyde.
No.
Okay.
He got convicted or charged for
Well,
it,
charged now.
Finally?
finally
For
after
20
15 plus
years,
He,
years.
15,
like,
almost
so-
20 years, right?
Yeah.
But
Not
yeah,
even-
I've never.
not
Every time
assault,
I've heard
rape.
Chris D'Elia, it's like, okay, I can see where you're coming from, but none of your jokes are hitting me. And I feel like if they're not hitting a girl, then maybe you're not really an
Well, the fact that I didn't know who he
comic.
was.
Exactly. Like I was just
He
like,
got pretty
You probably
famous
know him
pretty
if you
fast.
saw him.
You saw him.
yeah.
He got
If
pretty
you saw,
famous pretty fast.
he is like he has specials, and I understand that, and I know that it takes a lot of work to get there.
The crowd was laughing, and I was wondering, did they have the laugh? Like
Yeah.
a sign up there, like laugh
I mean,
now, you're on TV, kind of thing.
My thing is comedies, it's subjective, like all art.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to say like people aren't funny.
The sad thing
Because
is
now I just sound like a hater because
And
he's
he
famous
has-
and
the
I'm
Netflix
not.
show You.
He's got some.
you seen that?
Oh yeah,
The
he's
Netflix show You.
Oh,
He
plays
played a
Predator.
pedophile, creeper type pedophile
wait.
in the
what
damn show.
season?
It's the second season of it, I think.
Okay.
But he played that in that, and people were like, that knew him were like, well, that's not that far off. Which just things I've heard from people.
Kind of like a known, people kind of know this guy's like that.
So,
I mean, like
there's
a
still going to be people that
Weinstein
defend him because
situation
one of the
where
girls
people
was
knew how bad he
17.
was, but not really.
So let me ask you a
Cosby was
question.
like
And this is a serious question. So Byron, let's say for instance, tomorrow you're hosting SNL, special guest, and this is your first time hosting the show, and then you have a girl 20 years ago from today, which will make you how old 20 years from today? Because your birthday is this Thursday.
Yeah. So
you'll be 15 years old. 20 years ago, you'll be 15, right? And she says you did some things to her at 15, but these didn't come out until she saw the fact that you were on the SNL show.
Right.
Should we instantly believe her? And the reason why I'm asking these questions, because a lot of times these allegations don't come out until the persons are at this level.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a reason.
I've been accused of some crimes in my life.
I think there's a reason things don't come out
Did
until
you
you're at a certain level.
No.
Is because usually when people get to a certain level, they don't stop the shit. They just use their power to do it more.
Okay.
So if I was abused by somebody in high school, he's nobody in high school. But if I see this person's famous, it's like, fuck this asshole. This is a bad person. Then yeah, I have no problem if I raped somebody 20 years ago.
People that did stuff back then
call me out on
probably continue
raping.
to do it.
Yeah, most
People
likely.
that do that don't not do that.
Yeah.
Especially
later
when
in their
you get famous, because now who the fuck gonna? If I got away with it, I was nobody. Who's gonna stop me now?
And there are absolutely situations where yes, there are people
There's
who are trying to
also
hurt
ice
some
over-
people.
Yeah.
And I
There's ice
understand
over there
that,
too,
but I
but-
do think that
Silver container.
I do think that a 15-year-old girl isn't going to be the first person. Like she when I was 16, I didn't come out outright. It took me 3 years to say anything at all, to admit that something happened to me. It was like, hey, it took forever, and now I'm an advocate, and now I'm very open.
Because you probably denied it for 3 years. Like
for 3 years, I was like,
you
no.
felt like it didn't matter because
It mattered. So when I was 16, it mattered, but I was on a situation where I was groomed into what happened. And so I felt like I had a role in that, and it's not true. He was a predator, and I was someone who he had interactions with, and I was a victim, and now I'm a survivor.
And you compressed this for 3
years. I didn't, because I didn't want to say that I was a victim. I didn't want to say that I was a survivor.
I've always been closed-minded about those women who hold it in. And 3 years is not a long time, but the ones who hold it in for 30 years after 30 other women have come forth, then that I have a problem with that. In 1993, I was sexually assaulted, and I didn't wait 45 minutes from the time it happened. I waited 44 minutes and called the police right after it happened. And he was instantly arrested. And when it was brought to the media's attention, they felt like they needed to announce this to the Texas listeners and viewers, and 4 other people came forward. So I feel like my justice came from sharing that Ricky Lowe, Ricky RICKYLOWE, was arrested for sexually assaulting me. That these women came forward and said that he did the same thing to them. He did it to me while my dad was in the living room. And my dad let him in thinking that he was a friend. He came in, we did it. We rearranged the whole bedroom because we fought before it actually happened. So there was a tussle involved. There was a fight that happened before it happened, but nonetheless it happened. When he completed it, he walked out the door like nothing was wrong. He shot the deuces to my dad and walked out. And my dad didn't know what had happened until the police knocked on the door. And even though you waited 3 years, I no disrespect to you. My problem is the women who hold it in for 20 and 30 years. Let it out. And I felt like me letting it out when it happened, the day it happened. I felt like that was a relief for me. I was able to move on, and I was able to open that chapter for those women who had suppressed it for so long.
Yeah, but I don't think you can because I feel
I'm not condemning anybody.
I used to say that too. Like, why the hell did you wait so long? But I also look at it as like, look, depending on how you was raised, you could be like, I'm guilty. Like as a woman, like if you get raped,
I
you
felt
could be
guilty.
like,
I felt
I'm
guilty.
the guilty.
Well, and then so one of the things for me that stopped me from even saying anything for years was when I was in high. So this happened when I was 16, and I went to a very small high school in a small church, and I was like in the bathroom washing my hands, and my friend was talking to me about the guy that had done it, and she was like, yeah. No, he tried to talk to my sister, and like he was telling her all these things that he had told me too. And I that is kind of one of the moments where I was like, I can't believe I fell for it. I can't believe all these things. So her coming forward to me in a private conversation is what stopped me from being able to say anything. And like I haven't been in the same room with this person ever since I think I was 17 or something like that. And it's really like I don't know where he ended up. I think he is in a different country. He was undocumented at the time. So I don't know.
Mine ended up going to jail.
Yeah.
And mine ended up making the news. I don't know how it ever came to that, but he was the manager of a Circuit City, which was an electronics store in Dallas and Fort Worth. And when it came to surface, people were able to say, "Oh my God, I know him. He did it to me." And in the total, there were 13 women who came forth and was like, "He did it to me." And had I not
and
said
that's a
something
fear that I
or
have
came
as well.
forth, I don't know how it would have. I mean, I don't know how many other victims he could have.
Exactly, and that's a major issue that I have as well. It's like I want to know what happened because I want to be able to be like, hey, you did something that's very wrong, and I want to make sure that you don't do it to anyone else. But I can't find him, kind of thing.
But let me tell you let me tell you how it hurt me deeply. I was a virgin at 23, and when it happened, even sex after that, I felt like it needed to be rough and aggressive, and it still didn't feel right to me.
Mm-hmm.
And after finding someone who loved me and accepted me for me and wanted to show me how to be loved was supposed to happen and how to have sex was supposed to happen and be enjoyable, it was totally different. Because after Ricky violated me and did what he did to me, I felt like that this is how it has to be all the time. Because I didn't know. I was 23. I didn't know. I was new. He knew I was a virgin because we discussed it.
Mm-hmm.
My victim knew me. I met him. We hung out. We did occasional clubs. I'd never let him know where I lived because I lived with my parents. And he found out where I lived and came and violated me. So the trust was broken when he walked through my bedroom door.
Mm-hmm.
And to get past my dad, and my dad just assumed that was my friend. That I think that's where it. I don't. And again, to this day, I my dad's gone, but to this day, I still don't know what he said to my dad to let my dad say, "Oh, she's in her bedroom. Go down the hall to your right." You know, none of it. I don't know.
Yeah, he made me believe that I had to marry him, that I wouldn't be anything to anyone ever again, because he took all of it from me. You know, he took my innocence, he took sex and everything, and so that was something that I had to go to therapy for, and growing out of that, it's very difficult to watch because my dad didn't like him. My dad knew him and didn't like him and told me to stay away from him.
Yeah.
And my family, it was one of those things that we as a family we can't talk about anymore. But yeah, I totally understand. Just how do you love someone after the person that you thought you loved or the person that you thought was going to love you hurts you and destroys you, destroys your self-confidence and your personality.
And I guess that's the difference between yours and mine, because I had zero feelings for Ricky before it happened.
Gotcha.
And negative zero after it happened. Had that been a loved one, at 7, my uncle, my dad's brother, at 6 or 7, I was 6 or 7, 1976. He touched me in a way, and he was my favorite uncle. So when he touched me, I didn't think it was a violation. I just felt like I needed to share that with somebody, that I love my uncle this much, that he touched me there and he spanked me. And the spanking was different than the spankings that my parents had given me. And when I shared it with my mom and dad, and keep in mind, this is my dad's favorite brother.
Mhm.
He lived in our household. He was a college student, very attractive, smelled good, all of that. And the reason why I say that, because him smelling good, which is what made me feel like he was my favorite uncle. I mean, he always smelled good. He hugged me, kissed me. His affection was there often. Now, he never penetrated me, but when I shared the fact that he had an erection around me to my dad, that terminated their relationship. My dad never spoke to his brother after that. And my dad died 2 years ago, still not speaking to his brother from 1976.
Well, I have so many things to think about that, but I just can't imagine,
Yeah. As a man, that's
as a
not
man, if that was, I don't have a brother. I have 2 younger sisters, so I'm very protective of my sisters forever. But I have a dad and uncle that didn't speak to each other forever, and I wish they had fixed things up before one passed or the other passed, kind of thing. But for something like that,
yeah.
That's the right thing. If I had any relative or even a good friend of mine and found out something like that, that would end the relationship. And I'll tell you, I don't lie about who I am. I was a very shy kid as young, but once I grew up, I went in the Army at 18 and found like more me kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely have a violent side.
Right.
And my violent side would not have been just a cut off relationship. It would have been smash somebody in the freaking face. My dad had that same side. My grandfather cheated on my grandmother. We didn't find out for years and years later, right? But my grandfather had cheated on my grandmother, and had this relationship going for years. My dad had found out about it and took his father outside and beat the shit out of him. Years and years later, you find out that that's why he said he fell down. Years and years later, when my grandmother finally found out about the relationship, she was mad at him. They didn't tell her. He beat the crap out of his father pretty much and told him, why are you doing this to mom?
Yeah.
But he didn't tell her about the hidden part of that. So, I mean, there's so many side, right. There's so many things that make this, not a comedy show when you talk about subjects like that.
Yeah.
If you were my younger sister, I'd find the person and kill him. I've told that a million times. I have a younger sister that was abused. She has 3 children from her abuser. And she lives in Tennessee right now. I tell her all the time, I would have driven out there and killed him if I knew what he was doing to her.
Yeah.
He happens to be in prison right now, so he's safe.
I think these stories are important because a lot of dudes will hear stories and like just dismiss whatever the woman's saying.
Not just dudes, women. Women hear it.
Women do it.
We dismiss it too.
And I'll tell you, from the law
I
enforcement,
don't, but I've seen women dismiss
in
it.
the environment that I was raised in, so like I said, I met this guy at church. And so my environment growing up, like if I had said anything, until to this day, if I say anything, it's still one of those, well, but you wanted to know what sex was like kind of questions. Like people would ask me, people would accuse me. Like I was accused of being a Jezebel type, like, which if you guys don't know, she fucked a lot of guys. It's okay. It's sex positive.
So then I will be a Jezebel.
Same. But no, it's like they thought I was trying to corrupt their sons, and I was like, no, I don't want to. I honestly, like, I was scared of sex.
You were corrupted.
Yeah, I was actually scared of ever being too sexual for anyone because I was like, no one would, like I said, I was convinced that no one else would want me.
But I mean,
from a law enforcement side, from a law enforcement side of it, anybody that had anything, I don't care how long ago, it is important when you finally feel the strength to come forward. And I don't mean that goes back to everything she says is law. Because there are, believe me, there are ones that will come out and say lies. But just reporting it puts it out there. And something further that happens down the line that's still on a record where people can realize, hey, this person was accused of something 20 years ago. Instead of just brushing it off or believing their word for it, it gets a second look or third look or whatever look it takes from law enforcement. So it's always important. I don't care how long ago it was. I don't think, and even if the person doesn't get convicted of what they did to you, the fact that it's out there and it makes it available for law enforcement now, especially nowadays, how everything is so connected and we can find out stuff about people. That's the important part.
And I think where my ability to come to the police and hit 911 when it happened was I never wanted him to. I never anticipated other stories to evolve from it. I just wanted him to be held accountable for him violating me. This may sound childish, but this is the truth. When I called 911, I was more concerned about how he and I fought and redecorated my bedroom and tore up shit that I really wanted him to pay for it. It wasn't a true story. I did. I mean, I felt violated, of course, but the more shit, because we broke a television, we tore up a cell phone, we knocked my mom's window. It's my mom's home. We knocked the window out because there was a scuffle. There was a real fight that had ensued, and where he violated me, and he climaxed at the end, and it wasn't supposed to happen that way because he was never invited. It was never supposed to happen. And me telling him or sharing with him that I was a virgin, and later finding out that the other victims were virgins, that was his MO. He went after people who were or who claimed to be virgins. And this was my first experience. And him not knowing zero information about me to come to my home and violate me, that is what prompted me to, like, you know what? Not in my own home, not in my mama's house, not in my daddy's house. This needs to be fixed right now.
For my sister's thing, she had 3 kids by then, and her boyfriend was the abuser. And I went out there and actually confronted her. One of her youngest child said, "Daddy hit mommy with the belt, kicked mommy when she was on the ground." And I was like,
"That's like some police shit. Go ahead."
So I talked to my sister. "You tell me that he's doing this to you, and I'm moving you out of here. I'll find you a safe place. We'll get you out of here. We'll get you a new place to stay. Don't worry about money and stuff like that. We'll get you out of here." I went to his work.
Like, I'm a cop.
I was still a cop at the time. This was on my off time. I flew out there took a vacation week, wherever I was out there, and I went and talked to him. And he denied it. And he said, "I've never done this. We have arguments, of course, like people do, and all that stuff." And I sat, we had a beer, talked and listened to him. The day that I was talking to my sister again, I went to his work and I let him know, "I'm going to talk to my sister right now. If she says that you've been doing this stuff, I'm packing her up and I'm moving her. You stay here at work. Don't you bother coming home. Don't think you're going to mess with any of this. This is what's going to happen." And he said, "Oh, no, it's all good." Now, I can't tell you if he called her in between, but when I sat down with her, my sister swore that arguments, some close physical contact, but nothing like what my freaking niece and nephew and so, like, her children were telling me, including the smallest one would have no idea to be able to say, "Daddy took a belt to mommy and Daddy did this stuff." She's 2, right? So I'm like, but my sister has to tell me. If she doesn't tell me, what can I, So I left, went back to New Jersey, and the sad thing is, it was from there. I went back out here to Las Vegas. The sad thing is, it wasn't even maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. The breaking point for my sister was her glasses got broken again, and she had to go get a new pair of glasses, and that was the final straw. Like, how many times do I have to get new pairs of glasses because he punched me in the face or knocked me to the ground or something like that? So it was her glasses getting broken, not her own self getting beat up, and not the stuff that happened to her, and not that her children saw it, but her glasses. But at least that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Exactly. She packed her kids up and she got the hell out of there. And I called him right away and let him know, "You try to stop her."
No, and I'm glad.
And believe me, myself wanted. They're in Tennessee.
I think
there's a lot of woods out there. Myself wanted to drive out there and make sure he was never seen again.
I think had I lived by myself, maybe in a dorm or an apartment by myself, and this happened, I probably would have never said anything.
If you were by yourself.
If I was by myself. Yeah. I think what and I get why people don't call, and whatever reason. I think I was more again, it's my parents' home. And this may sound again childish. They were gonna make me pay for it because I'm grown. like I didn't do this, he did this. That's why I had to call the police. I needed verification. Like
you couldn't hide it.
Right, like, but it needed, again, the sexual assault was the bad part, but the destroying of property,
that's
was
what
more
got
important.
That's what
it's the thing that makes you go over the edge to say something out loud. You know, it was definitely. It's still, you know, to this day, it's like I know that if I ever see this person in person, there's a very different response that I would have. Because the last time I saw him, I just kind of was like, it was at church, and I was just quiet, and I like walked inside, and I sat down, and I didn't look around, and I just focused. I think I opened the Bible to like just pretend like I was reading. I was freaking out.
Exodus, yes.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what's going on, and I had a panic response. But yeah, next time I think I'll have the ability to be like, okay, now I know where you are, and things are gonna change.
What I love about Ridiculously Funny Comedy Podcast, we can have shows where they are super funny and they can last forever and it just be continuous laughs. But there's also those shows where we have that are informative and we share information and it will last longer than we really anticipated. This show has lasted 2 hours and normally it's an hour and 20 minutes. It's 2 hours, actually 2 hours and 30 minutes. So again, those who tune in and those who need help or a refuge from being a victim of violence or domestic violence or sexual assault, there are programs in your city that can help you. And a lot of times, if you just call 911 or 311, they can. We didn't know we were going to talk about this, so I didn't have numbers readily available to share. Bill, you have any advice for those victims who are listening or watching?
Absolutely call everything that. I wish I knew all the numbers right off the top of my head, but 311 is the non-emergency. If you call 311 and ask them for no matter what you're going through, they're going to have a number for you to call. If it is an emergency, definitely call 911. Don't think that the police aren't there for you, because they really are. And especially in Las Vegas, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, one of the first ever that had a crisis intervention team. They're called CIT officers. When they talk about defunding the police and sending money to other parts, there's already training here in this department. I was a CIT officer. That's meant for people that have a mental disturbance, to know how to deal with them. If they hear, so you don't send regular police officers because someone's calling about that someone is having a mental breakdown. And you see it all over the country where a regular officer shows up and before you know it, they end up shooting the person.
Yep.
And that person was just having this horrible mental day out here. And that just still happens. Because believe me, in the training, they teach you that when someone brings a weapon at you, you don't say, oh, they're mentally, because then you're dead. You still are times to shoot people.
Right.
And I mean, that's a horrible thing. But that's my advice. Call those numbers. Don't be afraid to call them. If you need to call them, understand it. 311 is not an emergency. Call 311, talk to the operator, let them know what the situation is, and they will tell you a number. If it ends up that they think that's an emergency number, then you call 911.
We have about 10 minutes left, but I want to talk about the police department and media and television. There were some shows that were cut because of the things that are happening with the police department. The Police Live show, what was it called?
Yep.
Cops.
It was
Live
called,
PD.
Not
no,
Cops.
Cops was cut as well.
Cops was cut
But Cops
too.
had already been down to multiple. A good friend of mine's a cameraman on it, and suddenly he's out of a job.
Right, but the ones that
And Live
one,
PD.
But Live PD was
Live PD, but Live PD, it didn't depict officers good or bad. It showed both sides. I love that show.
I'll give you an insight on that.
love that show.
I'll give
And
you
for
some-
them to cut that
I'll give
show.
Cops killing the guy in Austin.
Right, but I'll give you. They have the footage of that. I'll give you the insight. And
That
that's
they
part of the reason
destroyed.
why
Nobody destroys
White guy.
footage.
white guy killed.
Yeah,
by
they lost the
cops.
footage.
It's
Nobody
the exact
loses
same
footage.
thing. Kneeling on top of a guy. They didn't lose the footage.
Oh, I know.
They said they did.
No, they set a policy.
Or would it destroy it
Several
after 30
years
days?
ago, they set a policy that if they don't use it on their show, after 3 months, they destroy it. And the reason they set that policy is because they didn't want to be between the cops they're working with
Yeah.
and then the DA or other people like that. Now you almost have to choose, like the cops, this guy you worked with, now you suddenly have to give footage against him to somebody else. They didn't want to be in that part. So they basically, if they didn't use it on their show, they destroyed the footage, which basically they destroyed another view
Here's my
of what had happened that day.
Here's my
And that was a white guy, and he was saying, and they made jokes about it. This is 3 years ago. It's the exact same thing of the kneeling on George Floyd, where they were on top of a guy that was cuffed and on the ground, And then he stopped, and they made jokes that he had fallen asleep. And they were like, oh, if we wake him up right now, what is he going to be like? Oh, am I late for school, mommy? And they made jokes like that. That's on their own body camera, but it's also on the camera and the different angle.
Yeah.
And the fact that Live PD had that and then destroyed it.
Here's my problem
Becomes
with
the
the
problem.
destroyed thing. I think there's a 0% chance that they destroyed anything. Nobody in television destroys any footage.
No, I think they
People
realized.
keep footage forever.
I know. But they realized
because they have so many reunion shows. And you're absolutely right. They have so many blooper shows.
But I still think they made that because they realized, and it was after that.
Right.
Unfortunately, it was 3 years ago, and it never came to light until now.
Yeah, I know. There's an
Nobody pulled it about it, and nobody gave a shit about it.
But we saw that footage.
No one really
but
cared
that footage was released probably about 2 or 3 years ago on social media, and it circulated. I remember
the footage was from the cop's body camera. It was never from Live PD's camera because they didn't air that episode because somebody died. They already had a policy: if somebody dies in an episode, that's not going to be aired.
Yeah.
So even though they had the footage and stuff, but they still had another view. They had a sit back view away from just the cop's body camera, where you can see all the officers.
So my question to you, Bill: so should they cancel, since they've canceled Live PD and cops? Should they cancel Paw Patrol?
100% no.
They did.
I know they did. Should they
take
the shotgun away from Elmer
Should they cancel
Law and Order? Well, Law and Order. I think Law and Order is only.
I will raise the storm.
I think Law and Order's only defense is the major one, the biggest one, which is the Special Victims Unit, the SVU, right?
Yeah.
That does not talk about regular arrests and regular things. It talks about the victims of sexual assault, including cops that do things bad. I mean, they kind of cover the whole prospect. So they may be safe.
Law and Order does a way better job of like what happens once you start building a case and once you start doing legal work.
And they also touch on every basis that we deal with today. So they'll take a story that we're in the media right now, and they will turn that story into.
They talk about police brutality and coercion and all that stuff. So
now when you talk about connections to people, you asked me earlier if I ever fucked a black girl or any kind of, right?
I wanted to know.
You did, I know. But then you bring up Law and Order, SVU. Ice-T is on that show, right? So the girl that I dated all these years ago, that I lived with, was a singer.
Mm-hmm.
And she fucked Ice-T.
She recorded an album with Ice-T. He actually flew her to his house, and they recorded an album. She wrote the songs. His wife was right there at the time. Coco was there. So she wrote the songs.
So she fucked them.
And they made an actual album together. He was going to start his own record. He was going to start his own record company at the time, and she was going to be his first artist. And then he got a phone call for an audition in New York.
For you.
And he flew to New York, and he did the audition, and he got the job for Law and Order. And then he wrote her back and said, sorry, I'm not going to start my record company. I now have this. They're putting me through acting classes. I have to do all this stuff constantly to do the few lines that he had in the very beginning, but they wanted him to do all this.
Now, let me ask you a question. So
that was the girl. That was the relationship. I have Ice-T on a answering machine years ago when he called up. He's like,
you still have it?
And I'm like, oh shit, that's Ice-T calling my house.
So Bill, let me ask you a question. So you being a former cop, do you have a favorite cop show? Like did you like 1 Adam 12? That was my favorite show. That was my show. Oh my God, you guys don't know about Adam 12.
Right,
Walker, Texas. No.
I was an actor.
I'll tell you the truth though. The original Law and Order. The original Law and Order, and the SVU one I do like too, but the original one, because I always like the fact that they show both sides. They show the arrest, and then they show the court part, and they show what happens at the end. Yeah. And they don't always get them. And there's actually, they tell the truth on that show. I've had people tell me that I worked with that are in law enforcement, and I've told them a judge can overrule a jury. Yeah. And they told me, no, they can't. And I'm like,
and they've done it.
First of all, it was on Law and Order. It was an episode on Law and Order, and I told them what episode to watch. I'm like, well, that's just TV. I said, they base it off of real life. I'm telling you right now, watch that and then go find it, because a judge can.
They know what a judge is.
I know. A judge can overrule a jury. A jury makes a decision.
Yeah. And
the judge is like, how the hell did you come up with that shit?
Right.
Absolutely not. A judge can overrule a jury and make that decision. And it's on a Law and Order episode, and it happens. And it actually was for the wrong reason.
Alondra.
It wasn't for putting someone in jail that shouldn't be. It was for the jury had said a person was guilty, and the judge said, "Oh hell no," because the judge was a racist judge in this episode. I mean, but they showed it for the wrong side. The judge let it go, like, "Oh no, I think this jury is out of their mind. This person is now free. And they were like, what the hell?
Alondra, what's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show?
It's
Grey's Anatomy. But
Cop show.
Cop show.
Cop show.
yeah, you were like favorite TV show. I was like, okay, well,
I don't know. So Justin Chambers, there's a picture of Justin Chambers and I.
The old one or the new one?
He was the host of a show that I did in LA.
Are you serious?
Yes.
You love Justin Chambers?
Oh my
I
God!
hate how they wrote him off the show. Like,
Okay, anyway, we'll talk about that
yeah.
episode. So tell us real quickly
my
your favorite cop show.
So it's always been SVU. It's
SVU is everything to me.
it's where it
17
is.
years now, right?
But also I think I used to watch Walker when I was a kid.
I was an actress on Walker.
Like that was the show I watched as a kid. That was the show that I watched reruns of because I'm
But that's one on June 19th. If you're talking about the Texas Rangers, it's not something to be talking favorably about.
No.
Because the Texas Rangers stood aside and let violence happen to
Yeah.
Black people
Oh,
in
yeah.
1865 all the way up to 1930.
Again,
The Texas
Chuck
Rangers
Norris
got
was
out of the
a
way and
top
said, we're not part of this.
In the
Thank you
Texas
for sharing.
Rangers
Thank you for
defense,
sharing.
everybody let violence happen to Black people in
They let
1865.
violence happen. And that's like,
And they let it happen today.
That was
100%
everybody
say
in
that.
It's still
1865,
happening
not
today.
just Texas.
Yeah, violence against people of color is still constantly happening, but I
Right.
think violence against Black people is
I got one
higher
other
in
cop show you don't know
proportion.
about.
Which one? Hawaii Five-0?
Kevin Can Wait.
Who?
It was a
What?
comedy show that
Kevin Sweeney?
Kevin James was on called Kevin Can Wait. He played a retired cop.
Okay, yeah.
I only say that because I was on that show. So
Oh,
Okay.
really? No doubt.
that's my acting debut. I was on an episode, season finale of that show.
So were you
in an
a
episode
police
with him.
officer?
I played an undercover cop putting a wire on Kevin James while he was getting ready to go undercover on a scene.
Oh, wow.
That's my episode. That's why I bring that up.
Okay.
See,
Your
I
favorite cop show?
Oh, SVU for sure. Hands down.
everybody.
Wait, did you hear Stabler's coming back?
I heard this. I
Stabler's coming back?
Yeah.
Shut the front
Yeah.
door.
I heard
They
he's
said
gonna
he's
spin
coming
off
back.
too.
You know what? Like so many people that leave
I
a show think they're
think
going
he
to do
should just
better
stay.
and then
Just
try to
take
come
off.
back. They should tell them no, but
Well, like,
they're going to bring it back.
Well, you got to. I mean,
They've
the
gotta bring
ratings
it
are going
back.
to go through the roof when he comes
They gotta
back.
bring it
It's
back.
like,
I
yo,
mean,
leave him
come
off.
on.
How many people have left shows? I'm going to be this big star, and then they realize, oh crap, I'm not.
Yeah.
And then they try to come back, and the show is like,
that's why I
But,
really.
but let me tell you,
That's
I
why
felt
I
it.
appreciate Shonda Rhimes for killing off
I
Patrick
felt it-
Dempsey.
right.
Because he was like, I've been here for 11 years, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then he left, and now he can't come back because he's dead. His character.
yo,
right.
right.
With
He's alive.
shit. Oh, Stabler. Stabler was also in the TV show HBO special Oz.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And if you
That's
never
how it
saw that, this is
started
before.
at the beginning, right?
This is where before he became on.
Blue Bloods.
Yeah, he was on Blue Bloods too.
No, some of Law and Order.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
they all.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
so Stabler was on Oz, and if you've never seen Stabler naked, he's on Oz
You belong
naked
there. That's right.
with a nice package. And when I saw him on Law and Order SVU, I was like, yes, they got the right one. And then strategically after that, they started bringing in other characters who starred on Oz onto SVU.
Well, if my TV show ever makes it, I've been working on it for a long damn time. It'll be very
Would
similar
you
to
cast me?
Oz.
Would you cast me?
Absolutely, freaking. It'll be called Intake. The name's always going to stay the same, but I've been working on the show for a very long time, and it's all my experiences I've had working for LVMD, especially inside the jail and things that have happened over the years. And one day it will.
Comedy.
So what if I
It'll
I
never be a comedy.
can I
It'll
can I
definitely be
can
on
I
the
it'll be
other
very
side
much
of
like
this-
Oz. It'll be very much.
like, how do you feel about Orange is the New Black on the other side of things?
I liked the first season,
Okay.
and then after that, it got just freaking stupid.
now
didn't
if
watch
I
the
hook
last
you up with the right people, Bill, that are just relocated to Las Vegas, who are now a production company.
Mhm.
They've done a couple of movies, television shows, behind the scene things. They're looking to put Las Vegas on the map. Your show, their creativity and their equipment and their connections could make this happen. If I connect you with them, are you willing to do it? With all
Absolutely,
the-
I'm looking for anything right now.
Okay.
I just had a show. Bruce Purcell, you know Bruce,
Mhm.
very good friend of mine, had an idea. Good friend of mine happens to work for Will Smith's company.
Okay.
He wrote for Will Smith way back in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air days for all these days, and he's done a lot of stuff. Now he's got a pretty good spot with his new company because they've gone from a production company to a movie company.
Well,
So
I've
Will
actually
Smith
been a
now has
part
a movie
of the
company.
recording part, and
But
and
Bruce came
Byron
out. Bruce
is a
came out with a
writer.
great idea. and me and Bruce worked on a script for an idea, and they turned it into a possible series. And we had it pitched just a few weeks ago, and it lost the pitch by like barely. So now me and Bruce are rewriting it as a movie, and we're going to pitch it back to them or other people too. But I'm looking for anything. But my intake show, I've been working on that even when I was a cop, a long time ago. And I actually got to go to Will Smith's office probably, man, like 10 or 12 years ago, and pitch it.
I don't know if
it
you know
got
this.
rejected then, but they just didn't quite have the spot for it.
I was arrested here in Las Vegas in 2012, January 2012. And upon being arrested, I was arrested for something that I didn't do. I went to jail, did 36 hours before being released. Later, the case was dropped or dismissed, whatever you want to call it. But in the process, Jailed, the TV show, filmed their intake part.
I was on that show.
I was on that show too.
I'm on 32 episodes of that show.
I was only on one. I was only on one. And with that being said, I think that there needs to be shows for those people who make it through the process afterward the show. So there should be an after show.
You know what? That's a great sequel or a joint show, like two shows together. I think that's a great idea.
Whatever happened to.
Defining on my show, right? For me, there's so much stuff about cops. Working inside a jail, working inside police department, especially here in Las Vegas. It's just finding that, to make a TV show, an idea can sound great, but to make a TV show, you have to have this exact, the exact thing that has to happen. It has to be the right story arc, the way it happens. So you have so many main characters, or you have so many things that happen to a certain person. To me, it's so much about so many things. Like I have a million freaking stories, things I've seen over 18 and a half years, but how do we put them into the proper, the story thing? For me, it was how do you work inside a jail? How do you work inside that environment and not become one of those people? Like the animal. If you work in a zoo all day, how do you not become an animal? For me, I've seen people cross that line.
That's offensive.
And you have to be out of there. I've seen people.
That's offensive.
It's not offensive.
It is because let me tell you why it's offensive. Because you said you work with these people all day, and then how do you not become that animal?
Right.
A lot of times, there are 38% of the people that are incarcerated at the listen. 38% of the people that are incarcerated who are not in there for crimes that they committed.
And I'm not talking about those people.
But you called them. You've said animals.
No, I didn't say specifically which ones. I've had serial killers. I've had multiple murderers, mass murderers, some very, very bad people. How are you around these people all day long and not take some of those traits, not take some of these things bad? That's the hard thing about being in the police business. When you're in this thing and you're around people all day long, how do you not pick up some of these traits here and there? Because I've seen it happen. And I've seen people that they absolutely do that. Everybody becomes the bad person. So how do you remember that? When I was in training, I had a very good person tell me that every time you have an encounter with any inmate, you should touch your freaking badge and remember why you're fucking there. Why am I here? Before you lose your temper.
But if everybody's not there for that reason and they don't touch their badge, then that should
you should remember why you're there, because people forget. You see so many bad person, bad person, bad person, bad person.
Again, we only hear the bad.
So many.
There's some good ones.
Well, when you're in a jail, believe me, every single person walking through that door, and you forget sometimes.
Not every single person. I went to jail. I wasn't a bad person.
I think an example of
I helped people get out of jail that weren't bad people when they came in and told me I didn't do this. I have known them. We were able to figure out as past inmates. Like I've known him multiple times as an inmate. I had an inmate tell me, he arrested me for this. He thinks I'm this guy. I'm not him. Now, has this guy been arrested 56 freaking times? Do I know he's a criminal? Yes. But do I know he's not the person they're accusing of that day? Absolutely. So within an hour, he's out of there. You're out of here because I know that's not you. It isn't. He was very thankful. He's like, thank you, officer, for helping me. But at the same time, like I said, there's days. That's the hard part about this. When you constantly run into people that try to hurt you or are bad, there are the people that aren't. There are the drunk person. Mm-hmm. It's the first time drunk. They were celebrating a great thing and they got in a car accident. And when the cop pulls them over, believe me, they're so drunk, they're trying to fight the cop, they're doing whatever. Does that person need to be picked up and slammed on their head?
Yeah.
No, they don't. Because
But if they're fighting the cop,
well,
I didn't say die.
There's always
That's the difference.
well, some people end up dying, and that changes a whole different story.
I think
If a guy grabs my taser and is going to shoot me at it, you always use one level above. This is a force continuum. You always lose one level above what's being used on you. Someone grabs a taser and they're shooting a taser at me. What's the level above a taser? A gun. Boom. The difference. Bring a knife to a gunfight. What happens? You try to stab me, I shoot you. There's a whole different level. I don't bring a knife out when you bring a knife out. This is the force continuum. This is how things work.
And I get that.
And sometimes people end up dead.
But if I'm running from you, with this said taser,
well,
and it's already been the word deployed, is that okay? What's the word?
Well, see, that's a lie.
Disengaged.
If you watch the video, you'll see the spark go and the taser prongs come shooting out. And how does that officer know that he hadn't grabbed the person's gun, the other officer's gun? He knows. He aims something back at him.
I get what
we're talking about a specific thing.
That's a valid point.
Or a specific thing.
At the same
in a split second, people like to quarterback things in a split second. You're chasing after somebody, and their distance was not even 12 feet apart.
That's a good defense.
In a split second thing, the person running. Now, does that mean you can't shoot someone in the back? Tell me you can't shoot someone in the back, and that becomes a law. That'll be the stupidest law in the world. Because guess what? If I'm a criminal and I have a gun, what am I going to do? Aim my back to you, put it in there, and start shooting at you. You can't shoot me because you got to shoot me in the back.
Well,
many times that has happened.
Right?
No, but this is exactly what happened, because as he's running, he turns to fire. Right,
but
I'm not making an excuse for this one.
He didn't get shot until he redirected to the front.
If you watch the video, and like I said, a split second thing, and I'm not going to be the judge and the jury on this one, because I still think they made a mistake.
Who is they?
Well, first of all, we talk about this is the perfect thing about more training, handcuffing techniques, and being able to restrain somebody without a force is a skill, and obviously they didn't train enough on it, because if someone tried to pull away from me as I put a cuff on them, I guarantee you I will get that cuff on, I will get you on the ground, and I will get you cuffed.
So that's where that was failure number one.
I trained on this all the time.
That was failure number one.
So the failure number one. Now there's two guys fighting with him, and they can't control the guy. And I know I've had fights with guys that are suddenly so much stronger, and it's been people that were on drugs or whatever happened that they're freaking stronger. Even tasing them didn't stop them.
Can't stop PCP.
It doesn't stop. And now you're
getting punched in the face. Does it always have to be PCP though?
That's the strongest.
That is the one that makes people most.
But he wasn't on PCP.
He wasn't.
He was just drunk.
He was drunk. But he also knew he would go back
to
prison. He had a reason to know. When he felt this cuffs coming,
he also knew that he was on probation. He couldn't have any encounter with the police.
If he gets arrested, he's going to prison.
Right. Again.
His reason to flee and try to get away. Now, everybody can say, in hindsight, you have his vehicle, you already know his name, you spent 20 minutes with him, let him run. Where's he going to go?
That's what I said.
I'll go to his house tomorrow. We'll put the warrant out for him. We'll go get him. We took the test. It's on our thing. But that's the hindsight, and that's in your head. A really good, well-trained officer just lets him run away.
You make valid points.
But in the heat of the moment,
he did not deserve to die.
In the heat of the moment,
exactly.
The other officer went to the hospital for concussion for the punch that he took to the face and the head. He took 2 punches to the face while they were fighting.
But he also
away.
stood on the man's shoulder while he was shot.
But I mean, that's what he does, and he runs off. And as he's running, a shot in the back is not illegal. A shot in the back, especially if a person turns around. If that had been a gun he was firing at the officer, nobody would give a shit.
A gun is different.
But how does he know?
How does he know?
At that moment, at the very moment, they were just in this scuffle, and he runs off, and you go, and the guy turns back and fires. The flash.
So I think the part that you missed.
Distribution between the taser.
No. You know what? You've never had them fired at you, so you don't.
I haven't. You're right.
I can tell you. I can tell you. No, they're on different spots, but when they go, you don't know. When he got up, now he's chasing the guy, and the guy turns around. He has his taser.
One
was really heavy.
Right.
But you get used to having your gun on your side. You get used to having a taser on your
the
side.
guy that had the guy that had the taser taken from him was still on the ground in the back because he got punched in the head with a concussion. The guy chasing him is the different guy.
Yeah.
He has his taser. He shoots his taser at the guy and misses.
Mm-hmm.
Then he switches to his gun after he shoots back at him. He pulls the gun out as the flash goes, and he shoots back at him. That is the lie in the news, is that he'd already discharged it twice. That taser had never been discharged. When he fires it, the prongs come out. If the prongs had hit the officer, he's disabled, and he's on the ground. Now his gun is up for grabs. That's where they're going to lose this case. When it comes to court, they're going to lose this case. The officer is going to be. He was wrong. I am 100%. I'll say that a million times. I wouldn't even chase him. because I already know who he is. So why am I going to let him go? But when he does chase him, he fires his taser, which he had in his left hand.
And you're right.
He fires his taser.
Hold on, Bill.
He misses, and then
Bill.
he turns back to fire.
Let me.
So he shoots at a guy who's aiming behind him.
You
got technically hit in the back, but he's turned.
What you're saying is not. What you're saying is not wrong, but I think where this case takes the whole turn, well, the entire turn.
There's no such thing as aim low.
Hold on,
aim low, you miss, you hit, and hurt a civilian.
Well,
they're charging him with the bullet to hit the car.
Right, I saw that.
I mean, there's other reasons why.
Well, no, listen.
Right? There's other reasons why this guy is wrong because there's so many people around. You don't fire at somebody.
Right.
Now, if that had been a gun,
listen.
You don't know.
So I think where the frustration or the concern comes from is
tabloids gonna unfriend me the same day she friended me.
No, I still love you. I still love you.
Okay, I love you too.
I think the whole thing because what I love about America. Let me say this since you said that. What I love about America, all four of us come from different backgrounds, and we all have our own beliefs. We can see the same video, the same movie, the same television show, and have a whole different perspective on it. And with this shooting, my perspective is that the police officer who did the shooting he arrived aggressively.
See, I wouldn't say that.
Hold on, listen. You're a police officer. I'm not. Listen.
But watch the rest of the video. They were 10 minutes together.
Hold on, listen.
With no aggressiveness until
it was time to go to jail. It was time to go to jail.
Until then, when the officer showed up, that's the officer that does the breathalyzer and does.
But aren't police officers supposed to de-escalate and make the scene?
How do you de-escalate a guy punching you in the face? Sir, please stop punching me in the face.
He didn't get punched in the face until it was time to go to jail.
No, but see, my problem is
he's going to get arrested.
You can't de-escalate.
You got to put the cuffs on.
Their problem is.
I get it.
So that's not aggressive putting the cuffs on somebody because they're drunk.
But if you watch the video from beginning to the end, the first video, that officer, I'd have to take my hats off to him. He handled it remarkably. He was professional. The guy could have let him go until he called the second officer. Is when things change.
Well, the second officer was the expert.
The shooter showed up.
The second officer was the expert in DUI. When he realized the guy was drunk, he didn't just fall asleep from a hard day's work. He realized the guy was drunk. They have him pull over. They get out. They talk to him. He talked to him for a while. He called the second guy in because he's not an expert on testing for DUI. So he calls the guy that is, and that's Rolf, who shows up. Rolf is the guy that is the expert on DUI. So he shows up and he gives him the field sobriety test, which he fails. The problem, there becomes multiple problems, and it's always the backseat driver, the second day quarterback, the Monday night quarterback kind of thing, and stuff like that. Is that when they start saying things that they did wrong, and that's what makes police officers mad, because the guy's in a situation and they do something. And I'm damn right I'm drinking more now.
Right. You're okay. You're okay. That's what it's here for. But I just remember your text message. Like I'm really not a drinker.
No, I didn't say that. I said I'm not picky about drinking.
Oh, okay.
I want sugar and high carbs.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No carbs. We're good. But
you hang out at my job.
I know how much
I know how much you can drink.
Okay, I didn't know.
I'm a professional drinker.
I guess I misinterpreted what you just like I misinterpreted the video. I guess I misinterpreted what you said.
But what I say, what they're going to charge the guy with is and the mistake they made is they didn't tell him you were now being placed under arrest.
Exactly.
They should have said,
and I think that's
you're
where
being placed under arrest. Now that doesn't mean that he wouldn't have fought with them. See, that the problem is because they didn't say it. If they had said that and then he fought with them, would that change their interpretation? No, because they were looking to get this cop in jail right now. The fact is, once he does this, and the guy decides to fight, my problem is, I'm pretty good with hand-to-hand combat, and I'm pretty good with handcuffing techniques and stuff like that. And I think that's where the training lacks. Patrol officers are horrible at getting handcuffs on people.
Mm-hmm.
Jail officers are excellent at it because we have to do it all the damn time.
So, Bill, so it's safe to say cop number one was
if they had got him handcuffed, this would never happen. The fact that they couldn't get him handcuffed, and he was able to get away from both of them, and then he punches the cop. He takes the taser away from the cop.
Should he be rewarded for that? Like, God damn it, he's one of the ones who did it.
Until he jumps into another car and kills a family. That's the other part of the argument when you're like, hey, you let this guy go. Why didn't they just let him hop in a car and go home?
Oh, why didn't they take him home?
Well, then he hops in his car.
Well, why
Oh,
didn't
you mean why didn't they offer to give him a ride home?
And even if they did, all right, let's go with this part.
they're not Uber or Lyft.
Guess what happens here? They get him home. He goes in the house. They drive away. 10 minutes later, the drunk guy comes out and grabs his sister's car and takes off for a drive and kills a family of 6. What happens to the 2 officers that did not arrest him for DUI?
They're negligent.
They're fired.
Yeah.
They didn't do their job.
So either way,
they're fucked kind of how you look at it. In this case, it went horribly. He did not die. Now, what happened after the shooting? I have no words for that.
So
I've never kicked a guy on the ground. I've never
stepped on his shoulder.
I've stood on a guy's arm or on his hand so he couldn't lift his hand up to try to strike me back and stuff like that because I'm lazy and I don't want to bend all the way down sometimes. So yes, that has happened. That's not illegal technically, by the way. If the guy had a knife in his hand and I step on his fucking hand, if I step on a hand, the fact that the guy is no longer moving.
But he's shot though.
The fact that the guy
I'm saying not the shot guy.
The second guy,
no, but the second guy. So
the second guy
was shot in the back, laying on the ground, and then they stepped on his shoulder and held him down without performing CPR or any type of.
I don't know. I heard things. I haven't watched the video. I'm not gonna watch the video.
I watched the videos, even though they make me sick. The George Floyd video makes me sick to this day. I watched it multiple times.
I watched a different George Floyd video.
Well, we've talked about stuff on that too. Outside of here,
right.
There's things called excited delirium, which makes the person, so excitable that they need more oxygen that they're going to get. And if you cut off even a little bit of that, that causes death. And officers should know that across this freaking country. But trains in it to make sure you know.
Bill, I'm glad you brought this up because
I did it.
You're right. We had this discussion.
We did.
But at the same time, if you're stepping on my neck and I can't breathe, I'm going to wiggle. I'm going to struggle. I'm going to move, and just so I can get a position to where I can breathe. You may say I'm resisting. You may say I'm.
Well, they weren't saying he was resisting.
That's why double down. I can't breathe. Right. Get off my neck, and cops are like.
In the George Floyd video, there is no question.
Yeah,
that was 1,000% wrong. I will feel bad for 2 officers in that of the 4, and people can not like me for that if they want. The 2,
because one of the guys is first day, right?
2 were rookies with less than 4 days on. 2.
Okay, 2.
The 2 on the ground.
And their training officer is the guy on his neck.
Yeah.
When he said, and it's on their body cam that's been released to the public, and I try not to respond on things that I haven't been able to see, like the full video or full transcript or whatever of. In this case, I will. 2 guys within 4 days on the job. Their training officer is the guy that kneels on his neck. They got the guy on the ground. One of them's on his back. One of them's on his legs.
They both was bouncing at the same time.
And the officer says, I can't find his pulse. Should we get up? And the officer on his neck says, no, stay right there. And the 2 officers are training. They think if they get off, if they don't do what the training officer says, they're probably going to be fired. They're 4 days into this job.
True, but
and they have no reason to stay. But the 3rd guy,
standing at the crowd.
That's standing.
The brother-in-law.
And telling people to back up. That guy, 10 years on,
knows
at this point it's wrong. He should have told the 2 rookies, get off, move away.
So,
and even if you let the senior guy know what he's doing.
Can I say this from a citizen's point?
100%.
Had I been a citizen witnessing this, you are a standing by officer, one of the 3 that are watching. Had I threw a brick,
you've been arrested.
No, you've been shot.
But I'm trying to save. I'm trying to save a life.
From those cops.
Listen, I'm trying to save a life. So I know if I run up on him, I'm going to be tackled.
I'll tell you right now, Tad. If I was standing right there and I watched this, if I was standing 5 feet away, off duty, traveling out of the country, and I'm a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Sergeant, and I'm standing right there, and I saw that, I would have tried to stop that. I would have told
how would you have?
I probably would have got arrested.
How?
I would have told the guy, get the fuck off.
But you could probably say, I'm a cop and de-escalate it.
Well, no,
I can't do that.
Honestly, I would have taken, so personally speaking, I would have taken the arrest. I would have run up and I would have assaulted a police officer.
And that's my point. That's my point.
But at the same time, I'm also, when people are like, why did nobody who was standing around do anything? It's also, how
took my
how
license,
afraid
I
are
was
you
in
of when you
practice.
run up? Like, I'm gonna run up on a cop
Black
who has
people
a
are
gun,
traumatized
and
by
I'm,
cops.
you know,
No, and at
like,
this point, he's not using his gun.
yeah, I know he's on top of someone, but if
Right.
I'm running up to a cop who does have a gun, like, I'm thinking this man is armed and he's trained to do
I would have
something
pulled
to
my
someone.
badge out and showed him I'm a sergeant, and they would have probably told me, "You don't work here, get the fuck up." But I would have said, "Get off his neck," because I know
Yeah.
excited delirium. Believe me,
It would have been a good
what
time.
happens is what happens is a lot of people say the same thing.
But now,
If
as
you
a
can talk, and
retired,
I heard the cop say this. If you listen to the video, yeah, if you listen to the video, you hear the cop say it. When he says, "I can't breathe," what does the cop tell him?
if you can talk,
You can
breathe.
talk, you can breathe. That is a very similar thing. If there's enough wind to get through your windpipe so you can have a conversation, you can obviously breathe. That's why people that are choking can't tell you they're choking because it's blocked. So they're like, how can someone tell you you're choking? That's why the international sign for choking and all that. But the problem is excited delirium and things that happen when a person is in this situation. They're down on the ground, they're pinned face down, they're already losing some of their expandable ability from their lungs.
Right.
So they're losing oxygen there. When a person feels that, and now they got a guy on his freaking neck, he's not necessarily on his windpipe,
Right.
but he's on enough of his neck to decrease it.
Yeah.
When the guy is saying, "I can't breathe,"
He's saying I can't breathe fully.
does that does that mean that he's lying to you? He's just trying to get you to get off his neck? You know, the cop's an idiot. That cop is a piece of shit. I will say that right now.
Oh, well,
He
not
deserves
him.
to get.
Right
He's
on,
not
so
gonna.
false.
There's other cops at other precincts saying the same shit. Well, if
He's
he can
not
breathe,
gonna-
he can-
They're not going to get him with premeditated murder. I don't care if they knew each other before,
Well,
and the guy was like trying to prove, because he did say something that proves they probably knew each other,
They-
or something from that
both
moment,
bouncers.
because he told him, "You're not such a big tough guy now. How big and tough are you now?" He said that. It's on the tape as well. Now, whether that happened earlier, and he thought he was a big tough guy then, or he knew each other months ago, and now he's got him pinned to the ground. He's like, "You're not such a big tough guy now, are you?"
We
While he's on his neck.
gotta wrap up the show. We are 3 hours and 9 minutes.
You
into
missed all the
show.
funny today.
It's been
So,
fun,
like, as
but
a-
it was real. And it was informative, and it was, to me, I felt like we touched on and shared from different backgrounds on how we see things and how we should review things. With that being said, let's close out the show with giving you, Bill, how we should approach the police.
I would like something.
Hold on, wait a minute. Alondra, you sharing with how the police should approach us. Byron, you sharing with how we as Black people should do things, and then I'll close with all three of your comments.
There you go.
Bill, go.
I think 99% of cops want to help you. They're there to help you, and they're trying to help you. If you look into that, I think that helps people. Now, this is a tough time. It really is. And I can't say this so fast. I wish I had more time to be able to tell you more. But I think that if you're mistreated by somebody, you need to report it 100%. And I hope that more and more reports come in and people do take care of those cops. I think this time will make the so-called bad cops be removed from the departments. It will take a little bit of time, but there are way more, and I hate the word good and bad cop, even though I'm working on a movie right now called Good Cop, Bad Cop, Worst Cop. But I think truly most cops are trying to help you.
Okay.
And on a bad day for you and for them, I mean, it's a bad day for both people sometimes.
Right.
I just hope that everybody would tell the truth about how they feel about things and things like that.
Alondra.
I definitely think there should be a sense of patience on both sides. Like, as a person who a cop would approach for whatever reason, you know, if a cop comes up to me, I think it's important to be patient and to, you know, understand that I don't know, they don't know my life. They don't know what I've experienced, and I don't know their lives. And I don't know if a cop has, you know, just 10, 20 minutes ago had someone get violent on them or something, or like 3 days ago they lost someone or something. I don't know the whole story, and they don't know my whole story. They don't know that I worked 40 hours in 3 days and am exhausted and falling asleep.
And I ran a red light.
Yeah, or something like that. So it's like, I think just an essence of patience, and kind of being reasonable and responsible. Because honestly, when you fight, when you argue, when you do anything, it's like with any friendship or any relationship, when you fight and you argue and you're upset and you're angry, you make things worse by acting out. Just kind of like, hey, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna follow, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna follow, and we're gonna discuss, kind of thing. I think patience is a really big thing that we don't all have, and it's hard to have when a cop is putting handcuffs on you. To be like, okay, great.
Byron,
what do I viewpoint again?
how we as Black people should comply or not comply, or what is it we should do when we're pulled over by an officer? Or when we're pulled over by.
I think all Black people are taught from an early age how to deal with cops. Like, you'll get drunk people, you'll get belligerent people who, you know, those are people who let pride get in the way of pretty much any interaction. So they'll probably argue whatever. I feel strongly 99.999% of Black people know shut the fuck up and do what the cop says. So, be a chameleon. That's what we could do. I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up the show and just share with you my opinion on all three. Bill, I'm thinking that all three of you actually touched on some things that are valid and makes a lot of sense. I just think that police officers should go into a stopped situation or domestic violence situation with an open mind. I think a lot of times we go in assuming that the Black man is violent, even by his tone, his gesture, or his ripped shirt, or whatever.
Diaphragms.
Yeah,
it sounds menacing, but it's really nice.
I know. I hate to interrupt you. I wish we had more time because I've treated the white people way worse than I treat Black people.
My man.
Because I feel that when I show up to a situation, I've put more pressure on a white guy for doing something wrong.
But again, the media doesn't show that.
No, but I wish, this is my wish. If I had one wish in this world, it wouldn't have to do with color.
It would be with this.
A bad guy's a bad guy, a good guy's a good guy, and whatever happens based on what happened right that time. Not about the color. Not about there was a Black guy that happened to do this or happened to be a white cop. Because there's lots of Black cops that have killed people. There's lots of
white guys.
There's a million different things. I mean, but there's a million different things, and I wish it wasn't by the color. It was by the fact that the person. So
let me, before we leave, let me just explain a little bit on my take on what Black Lives Matters to me. Black Lives Matters to me is you just said this and you touched on it. A lot of white people kill people. The problem is with Black Lives Matter, and this is me. White people are killing people in serial killings where they're killing multiple people and mass shootings and events and they're arrested with no cause. No, they still have guns in hands. We've already known that these are mass killers. And when we get to the Black man who's unarmed, he dies with no gun. Or no weapon or no cause.
Oh, I was looking at you.
So with that being said, so I think we need to reevaluate, just how we go into a situation. When you see 14 to 22 arrests made for mass shootings, and then you see 208 to be exact in 5 years, 208 Black people who were killed unarmed. That's a lot.
There's well over 1 million police contacts per year.
And
what is the death rate? What is the death rate? What happens in most police contacts? There's not violence. It doesn't matter if it's Black or white. What happens in most of these contacts? And when you talk about serial killers, that's a whole separate thing.
You say it's separate. It's not separate to the Black community because again, the officer.
There have been Black serial killers where they gunned down and killed.
I've only read of one. But listen, but with that being said, the police officers go home. No cause, no problem, and the shooter is taken to McDonald's, fed a meal, and treated.
That,
and rearrest is so different.
That was an insane. That one was a ridiculous result. So I moved there about 3 months after it happened, and the entire community was against it, and It took a while for the defense to be built, as well as for a proper jury, because he has a right to a good jury kind of situation. But people had opinions. People knew what they wanted.
Why does he have a right to a good jury?
Because everyone does.
No, but if
Because
somebody
it's the
says,
Constitution.
"I will give you a full confession if I get a Big Mac," I've had people tell me if I can have a cigarette, we can sit down and I'll give you a full confession.
But
I brought him out.
So
it didn't matter what color they were.
You two make the best valid point ever. At the same point, these black guys who were killed, or black women who were killed, didn't have that option. They didn't get to say, "Let me explain," or "Let me tell you what happened," or "I'm not the person you're looking for," or "You're in the wrong apartment," or "I didn't do it," or anything.
I so never want to make this about race. I try so.
It's hard for you not to.
I know because I'm the white guy, so my opinion doesn't seem to matter when it comes.
Well, I'm not saying it don't matter.
No,
it does matter today.
From my opinion and what I see all the time, it's not about the race. It's about each individual thing. There's thousands of cases of white guys on armed being shot and killed by the police. It's a police brutality thing. It's not a race thing.
Those videos circulate.
That's what has to happen. It has to be the better training and the better stuff for them.
Chips and Walker, Texas Ranger.
But for me, that's what it has to be. It has to be not. We got to try to eliminate
the word black and white. I think if we eliminate that,
if we can ever get past that,
that's it.
Then we can.
And I've said this since 1977. If we eliminate the words black and white from our vocabulary and just treat everybody as the human race, because that's what I was raised to believe. I went to an all-white elementary school. And when I say my siblings and probably 8 teachers were blacks, the only blacks, and then the whole custodian, the whole kitchen staff were black, but everybody else was white. And I grew up in a neighborhood where my mom worked for a bank and my dad owned a restaurant. And it wasn't a restaurant that was located in the lower part of the community. My dad owned a restaurant where you ate quiche, lobster, and steak. So my this was fine dining in my point. But with that being said, and to grow up knowing that we were attacked because we were the only blacks in the neighborhood. My parents purchased a home that was they thought deemed perfect for us, and to still have a cross burned in our yard and be called the N-word, and then 5 days later, 8 other blacks move in the neighborhood. I'm just saying, if we just eliminate the word black and white from items that are or advertised on the news, it'll change a whole lot of things. If they just say cop shoots and kills teenage person, or cop shoots and killed shoplifter, nobody's going to be uproar. Nobody's going to watch it or anything. So when you say white cops shoot black cops for sleeping in his car, that's where the anger and that's where the tension. They want us to be divided. I don't want that. I want everybody to get along. I want everybody to have an understanding. And if we also view everything from the same perspective, if I sit here and you tell me how your nephew was killed by a black guy, and I said, "Oh my God," and you share your story with me, then I understand why you feel this way. And if you share with me why you only arrested white guys and your anger was toward the white guys, or whatever the reason is, if we sit back and put our feet into other people's shoes and listen and just stop automatically assuming, then we won't have these problems in today. I'm not an activist. I'm not a council member. I'm not on the staff. I didn't do any protesting because I'm fat and lazy and I can't do 2 blocks without resting. Everybody would have gone. Like where'd she go? Like she's at home. She's in her car. She's headed home. I just want to say thank you guys for coming to the show. You guys share with me how you feel, what you feel, and it's important to hear from people like you.
Thank you, Tab. I love you.
Oh, I love you too, Bill. No, I swear, no hard feelings, and you'll still be my new friend today in this day for no matter what you post. Now, if you start posting Trump shit, and I've deleted some Trump people.
I wonder this. Deleting people on social media who have super opposing views. Like, I sometimes don't want to delete someone or block someone on my Facebook or whatever for opposing views. Like if you harass me, then I'm blocking you. But the reason I think opposing view, because it's important to see what other people are saying and how they believe and what they believe, because then I can understand them and then also not like them, not accept them, but sort of just kind of like educate myself on a way to respond to them.
I feel like,
and I know you can do that without them, but then it's like, how many people on my Facebook feed that I at one point or another, like for the most part, the people on Facebook that I have, I didn't know that they believe these things so deeply.
Build a colony of people that just agree with you.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the greatest thing in the world. The reason I don't respond to a lot of stuff, because I like to see what everybody has. I learned a long time ago from a business grandfather that was pretty smart on this, that you keep your mouth shut and other people tell all their opinions, and guess what? I know everything about them and they know nothing about me.
So then, I mean, you're a secretive racist because you're not able to share it or to.
No,
that doesn't make you a racist.
I'm just kidding.
I know you're kidding. You got a big smile on your face.
Right. But you made a valid point though. I just feel like if my friend, and we've been friends for 10 years on Facebook, and you post something that supports white supremacy, whether that's your belief or not, hold on, if you support it, I don't want to be a part of it. And I'm not a blocker or a deleter, but I will remove myself from it.
I didn't say white supremacist or something like that. If I see
I'm just saying
stuff about that,
but if you're a Trump supporter at this point, you're a white supremacist.
See,
but that's my opinion. That's my opinion. And I've deleted a lot of friends who I've been long-term friends with, and even reading their posts. And before I did it, I went back and I reevaluated to make sure, is this the right choice I want to make? And then when they say the things they say, and then I read the comments that they've said to other people, this is not who I want to be a part of.
I need politics not to be part of the person's self. Just because they support a certain candidate. Now, if they support a certain person and they back that up with all kinds of hate speech and things like that, and that's where we go. The free speech thing, I think that's where our country is wrong. The free speech.
So we shouldn't be able to say what we want to say?
No, there should be crimes for certain free speech. There should be crimes for certain free speech.
Okay, so there are already certain things that aren't protected under the First Amendment, and I think that is necessary and important. But just like Germany,
if you have a telephone conversation with Donald Trump and you didn't sign any agreements, did you know that conversation is still private?
Yeah.
And you cannot discuss it with anybody, whether you signed it or whether he ended the conversation or started the conversation with you. This can't be mentioned.
Well, as a person that used to have a top secret security clearance for the United States Army and spied on millions of people over the years, absolutely. There are things that become privileged, become different conversations, and they do tell you ahead of time. You don't just get to pick up the phone and the president's on the phone. You're already told ahead of time the confidentiality of a conversation. That's not what I'm talking about. I think that certain hate speech that's put out there should be illegal. And if it was illegal, we wouldn't have groups like the KKK and stuff like that can walk around and say that this is free speech.
Well, like
if that was illegal, then it would be gone. Exactly.
It's illegal. And yeah, there are people who are still they
learned a lesson after a very hard lesson they had to learn, but they did learn a lesson. And that's why they don't have that.
I studied abroad in Germany, and 2 years prior.
I know a broad named Germany.
So it's like 2 years. 2 years prior to my class, apparently one of the students, he went and we each had individual projects, like we were in small groups or whatever, and somehow he met a guy at one of the beer gardens or something, and they talked and they chatted, and he was doing research and somehow ended up at a super secret Nazi meeting in Germany, and was like, all right, and he tried to leave and they wouldn't let him, and then he finally got out of there, and he called authorities on it and stuff. But it was one of those how do you Germany has everything illegal, so yeah, there's still going to be a chance that there's going to be a group of individuals who are racist and or Nazis or what have you, and I think that's something that you can't completely 100% avoid, but I do think that it is something, like Bill said, that it shouldn't be fully protected by the First Amendment, because no, it's hate speech, and it's violent hate speech. It's not just it's not just something rude and obnoxious. It's violent.
Well, again, thank you guys for coming by. I've enjoyed this full
Thank you.
2 hours and 30 minutes. We never expected to go that long, but it's
Just
informative.
flows.
Sometimes
Sometimes
it
it
happens.
happens.
You're drunk?
Yeah, pretty close.
You need to spend the night.
I could.
For a
Yes.
second, white guy.
First. The other one don't
Nazi
count.
kid is
Nazi
just a
counts.
story.
Nazi
That was just a story, right?
He had a lot of ink. He had a lot of ink. His skin
Right. He was
wasn't-
black. It was black. It was. No, but seriously. So guys, thank you guys for stopping by, tuning in, and hanging out.
Different,
sharing.
I was like,
Did it look different?
Still trying to.
It was.
no, I mean like the tattoo. Did it like
It
expand?
no.
Become a banner. What was it?
So
Tattoo a girl or a shit.
hold on.
Started off as a tattoo, and it
No.
grew to a banner.
It was like was it like a Mandela tattoo where it's
No,
like,
let me
where it's
say
like
this.
one thing
So-
and then it grew.
No.
More?
So when it was flaccid, it was more like a tic-tac-toe. I was like, oh, okay, you play tic-tac-toe on it. And then when it was erect, I was like, oh, you don't like niggas. So it was like that. So I don't know. But yeah, but we became really good friends. And
Something else.
so yeah, so guys, again, Alonda.
Okay.
You put the H in there again.
We'll call her that.
Alondra.
Sure.
I'm gonna say Alondra.
It's okay.
Alondra, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for
Thank
being a
you.
part of the show. I appreciate you. Sisters for life. Bill, you're my favorite white guy. I got a warrant over in Prim. Can you take care of it for me? I give great hand jobs. I don't know what else to say.
I don't need any special favors, but I can probably still help you.
Okay, thank you. Byron, as always, Byron is celebrating a birthday next Thursday. He'll be 36. He's actually doing a show next Thursday. If you guys stop by over at the Hilarious 7. Hilarious 7. On his birthday, please stop by. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to make a big noise, a big ruckus, bringing cake and ice cream and balloons and 2 strippers.
You gave away your surprise.
The male strippers are for me.
Oh,
It's 2 and 2.
Right.
I'll have
right.
to make it by for that.
Right. So please hang out, Byron. Love you, bro. Happy birthday.
I'm fond of you too.
Right. He didn't say I love you back. But
He'll get there.
yeah.
She aight.
Again, thank you guys for tuning in. I've had a great. Somebody said they like my hair. I've had a great time, guys. Thank you. We'll catch you next week. On next week's show, we'll have Ace on the show, and
Who is that?
right. He's a rapper here in Las Vegas. If you haven't heard his music, you'll hear it then. We'll introduce 2 of his songs, and he'll be part of our routine, our rotating music. Thank you, guys. Good night.
He's doing it.
Thank you, Tab.
Nice and Billie Jean.
Did you know she never wore jeans? That she wore capris the whole time.
Shut up.
Oh, I keep my belly in my jeans.
How's that get on that today? Tommy Mottola was a racist who exploited black talent.
Oh my God.
That's on there today. That wasn't on there last time I saw that video.
That is some bullshit.
No one on the billboard.
My goodness. Thank you, Tab.
No,
It's
thank
been
you.
fun.
Byron, I know you're hungry. What are you gonna go eat?
I don't know. I'll probably go to the crib, just grab something.
Is that a new place over
Oh,
on
I
the
can't
strip?
go- I can't go to Steiner's this
Strip
week.
open?
No,
I
listen, it
know.
is. But you
Couldn't
said I'm
work.
going to this new place. I'm going to go to the
So
crib.
if I can't
Like,
work,
is that
I
a
can
new
go out.
restaurant? Like,
Could
Supposed
be.
to go tonight. They're supposed to
Should
be
be.
the Happy, whatever the fuck it is, open mic tonight.
where?
Happy Earth?
Happy Earth one.
Mm-mm.
Supposed to go hang out at that one. I'm like, no, I can't do that. Me and Bruce are getting together to finish write more on our script later tonight, so I gotta take my time for that.
Sorry.
But
What are you gonna do? All right.
He's wearing great
You got
sweats.
movies or